I guess a simple descriptor for this would be, how a lot of action figures and toys, how they got cartoon shows, and those were actually of decent quality.
Yeah. This went the other way.
Well, video games were not as popular as the toy next door. So they didn't get the same budget.
And I would say some of them were well done and popular. Some of them were train wrecks for action figure cartoons.
Right, but it's,
they're not all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They can't all win the first day coming in.
It can't all be He-Man or G.I. Joe either.
Sometimes you get the Street Sharks.
Yeah, sometimes you get the Herculoids, and like I like the Herculoids, but let's be honest, the Herculoids.
How dare you?
Just a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. Different series that require a spoiler warning will be in the description.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Gaming Theater Podcast. Today's episode is going to be an episode all about us talking about the slow rise of the video game, movie, and TV show genre. So, TV shows and movies that are now that were originated from or inspired by video games and now turned into major content, like Fallout recently, which is the big one that came out. Now, here to help me out with this is going to be a few of our friends that have and guests that have showed up to discuss this episode. And with that, I'm going to start with somebody who's dear to my heart.
Hi, I'm DandDaine. I was doing a slow rise. For those of you listening at home, that won't make sense, but check us out on YouTube for the full awesomeness. Anyway.
Dane slowly rising. Be sure to find.
Whoa, hold. Okay.
This isn't only.
Hi,
chill.
My name's DandDaine. I stream. I'm an award-winning DM. I'm a big old nerd. I love charity and doing charity, raising money for sick people, sick kids. So I'm gonna start this over. Hi.
Well, now that you made the editor mad, it's not going to work out for you.
Shit, you're right. He's going to keep it in. Damn you, Tomatoman!
No, this is my side. I do the editing for this part.
Damn you, Scorpio!
I'm going to be doing all of the visual gags and add-ins.
It's true. Hi, my name is DandDaine. I'm an award-winning DM, charity-inclined nerd, and a TTRPG enthusiast. You can find me on Twitch or anywhere else at DandDaine. Dane is spelled a little bit weird, though. It's D-A-I-N-E.
All right. Now, with that, also by our side is going to be a guest who's been on here a couple of times.
Oh, I make fun of Dane. Now it's my turn. Hi. I go by Spice. Full handle is Spice and Rose. I am a professional illustrator who does illustrations for TTRPGs, local conventions. I'm the official artist for Gem State Gaming Con here locally to our area, and I stream sometimes as well and make fun of Dane professionally daily.
It's true.
That's a fact.
It's a fact. That's a rock fact.
That being said, though, also with us on our side is our video editor, who, when these are getting up on YouTube, you'll check out some of his work. Over here to our right is our friend.
Hi, I'm Brandon, also known as Tomatoman. I do a lot of video editing for GTP with other projects too on GTP's YouTube. Also, I'm very tired.
The mood.
It's a very good mood. Now, that being said, we also have a very special guest to our program. Oh, it's going to be over to my side.
Hi there. I'm Ian. I go by Historic Nerd on YouTube. I primarily do YouTube content built around console and video game history, and I kind of associate with that, and occasionally dive into other multimedia formats or nerd culture, things like that, or other incredibly random things that I've done on my channel in the past. But yeah, I do that, and I'm really glad to be here.
All right. And once again, my name is Leo. I'm the host for this evening. Also go by the Geek Scorpio. That being said, let's go take a quick trip to the magical merch booth. Now, with this, we're over here on the magical merch booth, and since Ian has already given out a bit of what that his programs is, I think this will be a very short magical merch booth. Ian, is there anything more that you want to say about the Historic Nerd channel?
Oh, sure. Let's dive right into it. So for me, I go heavily into 3D renderings and things like that with my later videos. So I actually just put out a video recently. It's about a 33-minute video on the history of the PlayStation 1, diving into first-hand accounts based off the book Revolutionary to Sony. It talks about the birth of the PlayStation, the early deals with Nintendo, and kind of dispels some of the myths and information that was put out in the book The Console Wars by Blake Harris. Has some other information from Ken Kutaragi himself and some stuff from the Japanese perspective of that whole event. So yeah, that's the video I put out recently, and I'm pretty happy about it. Please check it out. It's on Historic Nerd YouTube channel. Yeah.
Link will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yep, link will be in the notes and such.
Leo, where was he when we were just recording this?
I got
know.
the message.
Why?
Link. Got the message.
But that's
link.
what's awesome. That's what's awesome. So, if you longtime listeners of our channel, you may have heard some things about this. If you want, maybe not necessarily a different perspective, but a different take on the same type of idea, please go and check out the Historic Nerd over on YouTube.
This
I am-
stuff's really cool.
It is.
I am not
You will have a good
totally
time.
subscribing right now, which I actually am.
Well, now I don't know what to believe.
And I'm not talking about the joint channel. I'm talking my personal channel because I will watch that video later.
It's real good.
Now,
You should watch all of them because they're all
Yeah, that was-
incredible.
So that video represented about collectively probably about 2 months of work and probably maybe 1,000 hours of rendering just based on not 1,000, but like a couple hundred hours of rendering based on the scenes I put in that.
Criminy. Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
you did all this visuals yourself.
Yeah, 100% myself. The only thing I didn't create, a lot of the model assets I found from a variety of places, purchased and used from Sketchfab. But yeah, all the animation is done by me in Blender. Blender had let me pitch Blender really quick too, because Blender had an amazing update release that came out. Blender 4.0, absolutely phenomenal platform in terms of like the speed it gave to the Cycles engine. And now 4.1 just came out. So if you're interested in 3D animation and don't have money, check out Blender. It's fantastic.
Oh,
Hey, really quickly before we leave the Magical Merch booth, I was just curious if our good guest can help settle a long-running debate here on
Okay.
Gaming Theater Presents. So I know I watched one of your videos, a story of how NEC lost the console war. So
Mhm.
knowing that you know about the console wars and the information therein, I have to ask, where do you think handhelds fall
God damn
among
it, Dane.
the console
You
wars?
son of a bitch.
Is that something that we can consider? I mean, obviously, like the console wars being at home television-based consoles, near and dear, no argument there. But where do you think, just for my gratification, where do you think handhelds?
Where do they fall, or who won the console wars in the
Ooh.
handheld market?
A bit of both, maybe. If
Nintendo,
we're allowed, Leo.
hands down, 110 million units on the first generation Game Boy 1 and then the Color in the Pocket. 110 million units sold, which is a force of nature.
I think what Dane's more getting at is, would you loop them in with the other consoles in a console war discussion, or do you feel they should be their own separate category?
I would argue that they're own separate category in the sense that handhelds are more of a. Dane, you may not like this, but that's
Okay.
more of
I
a toy facet. At least in '89 to the early aughts, right?
Right.
And then the PSP came out, where it was a multimedia platform that appealed to more folks, where then you had it became more of a expanded market. But now you have a weird return with the Switch being a handheld console as well, where it's all roped and come back together like a reclassing thing at a higher level game, right?
Yeah.
So it's all come back together. But in terms of like, if you were to compare the success of the PlayStation 1 to Nintendo around that
Sure.
era, it was absolutely destroying everyone, even
Night
the
and day,
handheld
absolutely.
market in terms of profits. But yeah,
But I
It's
would
okay.
say, would it be fair to say that we should at least consider handhelds when discussing the console war?
yeah, oh yeah, you can certainly consider that in terms of where it was going, because ultimately, I guess you could say multifaceted front, right? Because you had NEC going to bat with the Turbo Express.
yeah.
God,
The Game Gear was on the field, and then you also had the Lynx, that piece of shit, and
Yeah, Leo.
Talk about the links.
Yeah, Leo,
and you never
the
talk
links.
good about that
Yeah.
links.
Well,
Well,
I think
it's
we
just like
mentioned the
Catfire
links.
either.
I mean, the Lynx, it's a really fascinating console, and British people will get really mad for me saying that, because it's like something they designed.
Mm.
But ultimately,
Poorly.
the problem with the Lynx was it had, I don't know if you know about the Tremels at all, and when they bought it,
Yes.
so they bought Atari, right? And they were just
Right.
scumbag humans. So like they got the Lynx through a deal where they just didn't pay the company that developed it for them. And so like, oh no, we're just going to go ahead and take your patents because you couldn't pay us. And so just being scumbags like that. So, and the Lynx it deserved better. But I mean, ultimately, like you're looking at 100 million units versus 10 million Game Gear versus maybe 800,000 links to. I don't even think there's accurate numbers on what the NEC Express sold, but that thing went for like $399 back in the 90s. So
Alright.
ridiculously overpriced.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
generally, if
but-
you dip below 5 digits, there's no such thing as an accurate number count.
Yeah. So I mean, so for that, it's really difficult to really know. NEC was like they were the most manic company in terms of like they went into the console war thinking like, oh, we're NEC, we're a big ass Japanese conglomerate. We spend more on our research and development than Nintendo spends on console production. We're gonna crush them, and then they just got their just teeth punched in viciously.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
sorry,
works
sorry,
for
this,
me.
a whole tangent. Sorry.
No, no,
We'll
no.
get
I-
to that one. When I get into that handheld console episode that I need to do, so Dane will stop going at me every time when he talks about this.
We all
Look-
know
look,
you hate
man.
handhelds, Leo.
Yeah,
It's canon. It's in the lore.
It's okay if you hate
It's on the
handhelds, Leo.
wiki.
We don't judge you for that. We accept you for that. I just, feel like handhelds should have their say.
They'll have a whole episode. They'll have their day.
I mean,
In the
yeah,
They'll have
meantime,
their day.
they're a part of it.
Now that I'm done derailing us, thank you for humoring me, Leo.
But Nintendo has always won it. I guess you
Yeah.
could say that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's not a war. It's
Stop, they're already dead.
yeah.
it's already gone.
They're
All right.
already
But with that being
dead.
said,
It's
let's go
already
ahead.
dead.
So that being said, let's go ahead and get back to the show. Okay, so what we're talking about today is video games being transitioned to movies and television shows, and sort of how we got to where we are now, because it's a weird, different concept. So so let me backtrack a bit. Different things get converted from books originally into TV shows and movies. Probably the most famous one out there, especially early on, is Dracula and Frankenstein. They get their own movie, and back in the early 20s and 30s, they were the big hits that were in cinema at the time. And what a lot of people forget is that the what we have from the concept of Dracula that we see, like Bram Stoker's Dracula on television and movies and such, is mostly based on the play Dracula, which is based on the book Dracula. So it had to go through 2 different iterations before it actually switched over to what we have and becomes the pop media sensation for that, and pop culture sensation. So when you're transitioning from one media to another, things will get lost, but things will get gained as far as what you can do with it. Going from a book to studio visual is one thing, but trying to get every aspect of a book, some things will get lost when you're trying to change those medias. Now, that being said, video games essentially start their lifespan roughly about this early 70s. And so they have a short lifespan, but they're getting really, really popular. We start moving on until we get to the mid to late 70s, early 80s, when the big hit video game that came out was Pac-Man. When Pac-Man was held inside different arcades, that thing, there's stories and tales of yore back then where people were wondering why Pac-Man machines weren't working, and it was because they were so popular, the coin box machines were stuck. And so you would have, people were pumping quarters all over it. And also, video games in the arcade back in the early 80s and such, that was an event. What we would think of going out on an evening in the town was literally going to the arcade as a point. And this will keep happening until the mid 80s or so, mid to late 80s, when the arcades start dying off once consoles start getting better with the NES and such. Also, the video game crash in 83 doesn't help in that sense. But Pac-Man becomes, the reason why we talk about Pac-Man is Pac-Man does a bunch of things visually, and it's so recognizable that we get to the first cartoon made into from a video game, which is Pac-Man. It has absolutely nothing to do with the game. Pac-Man just has the most recognizable characters, and that's sort of how we see that. But that's not the only one. Back in the early days in the 80s, they had Atari actually had a couple of video game shows that were out there. Pole Position, which has, again, this cartoon has almost nothing to do with the series, with the game Pole Position. Pole Position is an old Atari arcade game where you drive around a track in I think an Indy 500 car, and you just go try to to race to the end. And I'll be honest, I never know why playing that old game if I'm winning or
You're playing that game. You're not winning.
So back to Pac-Man for a second for you,
Yeah.
because you're talking about like Pac-Man. You could argue was like a cultural force of nature because you had entire musical albums like built around the arcade, and Pac-Man Fever being a national hit.
Yeah,
Around that
Buckner
time as well.
Garcia, Pac-Man Fever. I have that on my Spotify, and I jam to that sucker. Fun fact: they
Pocket full of
hired
quarters,
the Buckner Garcia got hired to do part of the soundtrack for Wreck-It Ralph because of their fame with that. Also, they
That's
have an
cool.
Atari themed album. So there's like,
Yeah.
what was it? There was Pac-Man Fever, Do the Defender.
Space Invaders, right? Something
Yeah,
like
Space Invaders was on there. There was like a couple of other, but they were all themed. And my favorite weird random fact I know about these guys is that one of the things that they own is a small restaurant that they own together. They also have a jukebox, and in that jukebox is all their video game based songs that are in there. You know what? Give it up to them. When they have a novelty song, they are going on hard. They are not quitting on this.
This put my kids through college.
It gets real awkward when somebody walks in and requests Pinball Wizard, and they're like, "No, we don't do that here. You get out."
We don't serve your kind.
Dude, as an aside, I'm looking at images of the original Pac-Man show,
Mm-hmm.
and I am so distressed
Yeah, that's not right.
by how dressed and not dressed every member of the Pac family is.
Yeah.
Like,
Didn't it technically go on to influence the SNES game?
Yes, Pac-Man
Like in
Adventures
its
when that came
visual
out.
aesthetic, because it's like more of a point and click.
Mhm.
But also not, because it doesn't
See
matter
that.
what you click. Pac-Man does whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah,
I was
that's that game.
definitely going to
Yes.
ask Spice like how you would feel about a live action Pac-Man being made, but I don't think we could get it past the censors with wearing a hat, gloves,
So-
and
They made that
boots.
Pixel movie.
Yeah.
So
I was going to mention that.
you remember how I felt about Kirby in the Forgotten Land?
The
Where I
mouthful mode.
played it and I
Like-
loved it, and mouthful mode is just too much flesh.
It's your favorite thing.
It's stretchy and fleshy, and it's just like,
It's
I hate that
borderline
part.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, it is. It's horrible because like you get this like fleshy pink creature just like stretching itself like an eldritch horror over any object that's bigger than its body. That's how I feel about the idea of a hyper realistic Pac-Man. Is I don't care if he's not pink like Kirby, it is too much shiny flesh
You
to
don't-
be like it's eldritch horror.
I'm
They're
just
both
beginning to
big mouth
think.
creatures.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think you don't like big round mouth creatures.
But I love Kirby. I
you?
adore him. I do.
Do you?
I do. I have.
Do you
Sword
always
Kirby.
love Kirby?
Yes,
If
I.
the-
I still really loved that game. I got over my
As long as
trepidation.
you know, I gotta go with Spice on this one. As long it's kind of like how cute the monster from The Thing is. It's cute until it becomes a flesh-dissolving creature. So the first 2 minutes of the movie.
So it's not cute.
When it was the
Like-
dog, it was cute.
Like
That's
Gremlins, got it.
When it's
Mhm.
not being an eldritch horror, it's fine.
Look,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is, if you can't handle Kirby at its eldritch horror, you don't deserve Kirby at its adorable pink puffball.
All I want is Poyo Poyo, not
Yeah,
hell beast from the depths.
not consume.
But back to
Okinawa.
consuming Pac-Man, who eats everything in the room. So
He does eat
Pac-Man it's mostly pellets, but yeah, Pac-Man's a cultural phenomenon. But this also opens the door for people to want to integrate video games into movies. We'll bump into ones who are spawned or like a. So I think Tron comes out a few years later after that.
Oh,
I think it was like 82 or 84, somewhere in there.
Oh, pretty soon because Pac-Man is I think 81.
Yeah.
1982 for Tron.
Yeah, that was my first say.
So
I love Tron.
good.
Great movie.
Pac-Man.
Oh, in 1982, same year.
Yeah.
And you had arcade cabinet tie-ins with Tron as well.
Yeah.
Also, that Tron game was legit. If you got the cool one, there's 2 Tron games.
Well, yeah, you have the disc arena one, and then you have the tank arena, disc arena, and then something else. But like variety
that,
controller
where it's
pieces,
like
yeah.
a variety of but no, Tron was amazing.
Yeah.
Tron technically came out first.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Tron was July of 82, and the original Pac-Man looks like it was September of 82.
Right. And we talked about this in the Console Wars episode when back in the 80s and 82. I mean, people were making money hand over fist for games and video games at that time. And companies would, any company out there who could get their hands and with enough resources to build a game department would just make a game. Even if it failed, it still made a bunch of money. That's just how it was back then. And Atari was fine with it, as long would publish anything, as long as the entire industry didn't crash. 83 is a different story.
That's foreshadowing.
Yeah.
About this time, which is kind of a weird, like if you were back then seeing Dragon Slayer pop into an arcade, it would be like what in the 90s or in 2000 or such, when people went to see Avatar or the
Last Airbender? Yeah.
no, not that one. That was
M. Night Shyamalan, great.
Yeah,
stuff.
great film,
Great stuff,
actually.
good stuff.
I hear they're thinking about making a series based around it.
no, the one with James Cameron's Avatar, where people were just going in there, and it made tons and tons of money because it's 3D graphics and things. Well, Dragon Slayer, when that came out, was a fully animated rendered game.
Dragon Slayer's
Yeah.
so good for
So
its time.
good.
Yeah, for its time, it is amazing.
It still holds up.
Yeah, it was I don't know, you guys, like Don Bluth was the lead animator
Yeah,
on
no,
that
Don Bluth was
project.
the lead
So it was
animator.
kind of his enterprise on that one. And then what was kind of fascinating about it was that they used the Laserdisc technology because it
Mhm.
allowed for instant track switching. To basically, that's the only way the game would work. But
Yeah.
it was kind of a cool idea. Giant quarter muncher though. But
Oh,
it
yeah.
was certainly a really attractive, like amazing novelty in arcades at that time because that Laserdisc technology expanded to other games. I'm trying to remember. Get some American laser games eventually used that technology later for some of the the quick draw games they produced, but that was like early 90s though.
Well, and you also had the spiritual follow-up with Space Ace.
Yeah, Space
Mhm.
Ace, yeah.
Got to give it to Don Bluth, man. He was everywhere for
He was,
yeah.
but
a long time.
those Laserdisc cabinets, my God, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, because like they were fragile was the real problem, because the
Yeah.
disc could go off its track.
Yeah, you just had a Laserdisc player in there, and you're basically playing in an arcade.
Yeah, I mean, anything with
8
moving
menu
parts.
game.
Yeah.
Are you all implying that children may not be the most gentle of souls?
So, although they did actually have a weird workaround for part of that, because Dragon Slayer was such a visual novelty that people would crowd around crowds, and you would have they started making the cabinets with there's two types of cabinets: the regular arcade cabinet and the secondary one with a high television on top to show what's happening on there, on that you're playing, so people could see it from the back if they're crowding around.
I definitely do miss the feeling of walking into an arcade and putting a quarter on a machine to claim next. Like, there's a nostalgia to that. Even when I was coming up, which was sort of the downfall of the arcade. But those memories, man, they stick with you.
Oh yeah.
I miss it. I don't miss spending quarter money, but I do miss calling next by you put a quarter up there and the person playing nods and you're like, yeah, they know. They're picking up what I'm putting down.
But did any of you ever watch the Dragon Slayer cartoon?
I did.
I never actually checked that out.
I saw
Not
it
good.
once. No, it's not great.
So it's like, yeah, I can actually say it because this is what it felt like. It's like the knockoff, cheap version of Dragon's Lair. Literally, because they didn't even hire Don Bluth to make Don Bluth's cartoon for some reason.
Because he's expensive.
Because he's expensive. But we want to make a cartoon about your game Dragon's Lair. Cool, I can animate it. I animated the whole video game. Nah, that's too expensive. How do we do this on a low budget?
I mean, Don Bluth did love rotoscoping, which was kind of expensive back then.
Yeah.
True, very
I mean,
true.
it's gorgeous, but expensive.
Also
Yeah.
true.
So what you're saying is that the Dragon Slayer animated show is like the Temu version of Dragon Slayer.
Oh.
How
That's
can
so
we go
kind of you.
beyond Temu? on this one?
I mean, like, let's be honest. You knew what you were gonna get because it's what you paid for, and if you're mad about it, that's on you at that point.
So I guess a simple descriptor for this would be, how a lot of action figures and toys, how they got cartoon shows, and those were actually of decent quality.
Yeah.
This went the other way.
Well, video games were not as popular as the toy next door, so they didn't get the same budget.
And I would say some of them were well done and popular. Some of them were train wrecks for action figure cartoons.
Right, but it's
they're not all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They can't all win the first day
No.
coming in.
It can't all be He-Man or G.I. Joe either.
They
Sometimes
can't
you get
all
the
be Street Sharks.
Yeah, sometimes you get the Herculoids, and like I like the Herculoids, but let's be honest, the Herculoids.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Hey,
Yeah.
biker mice from Mars, bro.
Fair.
Wow.
So the reason why I bring this up, they had a weird concept, which is they tried their best to make it feel like the game. Because one of the things you do in Dragon Slayer is you have to make a decision really quick. So what they would do is that they would have the episode play out like this weird, cheap sword and sorcery fantasy thing, like the Herculoids in some cases. They get to the commercial break and they are like, "Oh no, Dirk the Daring needs to," because I think Dirk the Daring is the name of this the night. Dirk the Daring needs to get over to deal with this dragon. Should he take the left path or should he take the right path? We'll find out later on the commercial break. And so as a kid, you're supposed to make a decision.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where I went too, Spice.
Can you find the map?
Dirk.
But they have the commercial break, they come back, and they tell you the wrong thing. And it is bad. Oh, it looks like did you guys pick the left path? Well, the left path is covered in poisonous snakes. Dirk has been poisoned, and now we'll never be able to save the day. So we're going with the right path. This was like every episode.
You're saying this is awful. This is brilliant. I'm sorry. Like, that's the spirit of the game, man.
So there was actually a Portuguese television show that used a phone dial-in capability, and it was real time. And it could dictate what was going on the show, and a bunch of people would actually dial in and vote. And if only they'd had that technology for Dragon Slayer, would have been great.
That
The show ending early because they killed him. They're like, "Oh, sorry guys, it's over."
You just have like a giant warning on screen for the remaining 15 minutes.
See you next week.
The executive was like, "We saved so much money on animation this week. Good job, everybody."
No. Here's what we do: we bring
Are you
it
implying
back.
it's animated in real time?
Yes, but we do
I
it like
don't know,
Legends
it's
of the
not.
Hidden
Too hard on
Temple.
the animators.
No, you bring it back. You do it live action style, like Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Mhm.
And then if he dies, you get a 15-minute episode. But if he lives, you get the full 28. I think it's brilliant.
So you're kind of in the right path because this will happen in the 90s. There was an experimental set of movie theaters, which would have you would go to the theater, you get a seat, and you'd have 3 buttons. The buttons were to dictate what was going to happen next on the movie that you're watching. So you have to make, but based upon what the audience's decision was.
Is this like Clue?
Vote now on your cellular device.
Kind of like that, but you have to do it in real time.
Does James Bond A, stop the bad guy, B, drive a car, or C, spontaneously combust?
Yeah, I think that was an endeavor actually pushed by the guys who made Seventh Guest. They were like one of the ones pushing that. Yeah, interactive
Let's bring
movie
it
theaters.
back.
I can imagine that have been done with the adaptation of Clue, because if you get the DVD, it randomizes which of the 3 endings.
Yeah.
And if you bought it on VHS, it was a random ending.
Well, what's wild, the theatrical release as well
Brilliant.
was random. So depending on like what
Which
theater
reel did
you
you
went
get?
to, they wanted to like supposedly this is the anecdote, right? They wanted to simulate the randomness that came from the game, and so they just put it different endings in different theaters. I can't even imagine. Can you imagine like going to see your cousin or something who lives in a different state and be like, "Oh, did you see Clue? Yeah, man, I loved it. When such and such happened," you're like, "What? No."
Can you imagine the Mandela effect bullshit that would happen if people arguing?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why it happened. It's shit like that at the water cooler.
I remember that movie ending this way. You're
Yeah.
full of
I
shit.
remember that ending movie and then you had to wait until they had the special edition because it took years where they made a special version of, which is the now the more canonical one, which actually has all 3 endings, so you can see what they were.
You're just getting into fights. It was obviously Professor Plum with the wrench. Come on.
All I'm saying is people don't actually want like IMAX and bigger chairs. People want interactive, like bring back Clue, bring back button pushes. Like, what are we doing?
Need the gimmicks back, is what you need.
I need more gimmicky
More
movies.
gimmicks. More gimmicks.
More gimmicks, more 3D glasses,
No.
more weird popcorn buckets. Like,
Yes,
come on.
that.
That last one, yeah.
we are getting that. Not to derail us too far, but Deadpool's popcorn bucket, inspired by Dune's popcorn bucket, is said to be a travesty in all of the
It's a
best ways.
delight.
It knows what
It's-
it's doing.
It's something.
You know, either way, it's going to be delicious because it's going to have popcorn in it.
I hope that's
I feel like it's
I
not gonna
hope that's what's in it.
spill-
That's
spill
what I
out the
want in it.
front. Like I don't feel like it's actually gonna keep the popcorn in. I feel like it's just like you have to cradle it.
Don't worry, Spice. I'm sure you'll find something to fill the popcorn hole.
Moving on.
Anyway,
Transitioning. All right.
But yeah, so like this, unfortunately, especially in the 80s, making video games into cartoons and TV shows and was not a popular endeavor, and they did not make any real money coming back. It was, especially since they're animated, it ended up costing more to make it than it was to actually show it because nobody was watching it, and there's not really much in the way of merchandising toy stuff because that won't happen until the 90s. So for video games, because a lot of toy companies won't touch it because it is a video game and they don't see the potential for that yet.
Well, the IPs are underdeveloped. Yeah.
Exactly.
How were they expected to make their money back? Was it just like, obviously not merchandising rights, but was it just like commercials?
Yeah. So the way it would work out is that you make a show, you would put it on air during the time frame for those commercials. To get the commercial on there, the person who made the commercial, they pay to get on there as advertisement, and then that money gets distributed to the television studio, and then that the broadcaster like NBC, ABC, CBS, whoever is broadcasting it, and then they in turn will take that money that they have for the advertisement revenue, but they also have to pay to have that show on there, and so
Gotcha.
they put that money back. So this is why toy merchandising becomes a big thing for. If you were, this is why I'll go back to Turtles because this is the one that made the most money out of doing this model. Because what they would do is that the creators would make a new character as a toy. Then they'll put that character in their comic. Well, since they own the comics independently, they make money that way. However, because they have what's called a creator rights, the character they created can now be used by the television show or made into a toy. They'll make a toy for that, and then if the toy sells, they make money because whoever manufactures the toy has to pay the licensing for having the Turtles brand, and also the guys who made the creation in the first place. After that, then they would make the animated series. Now, the animated series itself would feature whatever toy is on there. If the audience is high, then advertisers will pay more money to have their commercials on there, but they will always reserve a spot for their own toy line on there. That's part of the negotiation. So there would be a commercial for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys and a bunch of other commercials. Now, keep in mind, this is in '87. Turtles is the biggest thing until Power Rangers won't come around. So people were paying a ton of money to get their advertisement for that little spot. And then they would and that money goes into and that money gets paid from the advertisers who pay it to the network, who then turns around and pays it to anybody, to whoever's made the show. This is where you also get syndication rights, and you can have money divided that way without having to make a new episode. The point being is they have cash on top of cash as a way of doing this, all for the creators. This is the main reason why why so many IPs start getting sucked up right now, because if you can get your hands on a solid IP, work the merchandising rights, you can make a ton of money with having one thing.
So what you're saying is it's Turtles all the way down?
Turtles all the way up.
Okay. Oh, up and down?
In this cash flow,
What
yeah.
about side to side?
It's very obviously Turtles in a half shell. Okay,
You know what? Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
turtle power.
Yeah, so they would make money in this way by basically advertisements. But since no toy line, and there's nothing, the only thing that they have to pay for is the network, is the company who created it. Not a lot of advertisers want to put advertisement on a show that's only watched by 1,000 people.
Sure.
And so your advertisement gets lower and lower and lower until they make very little money, and now it's too expensive to keep the show going. So they stop paying to have new episodes made. It's a long description, but so this is where that model comes in there. Video games have a weird model as well when you come to, especially in the 80s for the NES, because the NES will have the Nintendo will make money from selling the game, holding the game, and just having the rights to the game, just to be published on there before everybody else gets paid. It's messy. So this is where they start experimenting with tie-ins that don't exactly work. Two big ones that happened around in the 80s was two movies that were coming out, which was originally tied as a double feature, Cloak and Dagger and The Last Starfighter. So The Last Starfighter was made with the intent of Atari owns the rights to The Last Starfighter. To those who didn't watch the movie, it's pretty fun.
Wait, Atari owns the rights to that, or the game rights? I thought Last Starfighter was a Disney-produced film.
I thought so
Am I
as
wrong?
well.
Am I wrong?
For that one? No, because Last Starfighter was designed with Atari in mind because Atari built the cabinet and Atari was supposed to make a game for Last Starfighter, and they forgot to. They pushed it back so far, nobody cared anymore.
Well, it was 82, 83. You had Atari going through a lot of restructuring with Warner shit and all that.
Yeah, Atari has problems.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to say it. Atari got problems.
Can I talk about Cloak and Dagger, where I have a vague fever dream memory of the kid having to shoot somebody in that one?
I think so.
And,
I've never actually seen Cloak and Dagger, but I've seen
the family film?
Yeah.
Dude, the 80s were different. They were a different time.
Harder people, those then.
Yeah.
Better people.
Timmy, if you haven't taken your first life by 8, what are we even doing here?
Yeah, right. But the Atari 5200 though, that was the star of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
True.
With the if you remember, they plugged the cartridge in and it's got the first stealth aircraft diagrams are in there. And
Yeah.
it's all that big deal like flashing across the screen on the 5200.
Yeah.
And I checked out like way later. I found a Cloak and Dagger cabinet for the arcade because they never made a 5200 game for it, but there was always the arcade cabinet. Nothing like the movie at all. Just
Not a one.
no canal gunfight in Austin, Texas. None of that, or Houston, or whatever it is.
And I will say that is kind of pretty indicative of the genre as a whole, right? Games that have other properties based off of those games. The Pac-Man cartoon, not really that related to Pac-Man, the game.
Yeah, that was kind of that's kind of a running theme.
Yeah, Cloak and Dagger. I mean, the
the
Power
early
Glove,
90s, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You could do anything with
So
the Power
bad.
Glove
Oh.
in the movies.
The Wizard, yeah.
The
It's
Wizard.
so bad.
We got it.
It's bad.
I
We'll
love
take
the
a
Power
stop
Glove.
in that after talking about
Sure,
Last
sure.
Starfighter. Last
I'll-
Starfighter is an amazing movie.
Yes,
I
it
love
absolutely is. All I'm saying is your mileage may vary. Some video games not actually.
I do feel like I can confirm Ian's fever dream though, because when you just look for Cloak and Dagger 80s movie,
You have to specify that.
You have to specify. One of the first things that pops up is a YouTube clip, and it's this kid in a red jacket holding a gun that's pointed at the camera, and the title is Cloak and Dagger movie clip, Real Bullets, 1984.
Okay. So the kid,
Yeah.
the kid does shoot somebody. Okay, it's
Yeah,
been a
yeah.
long time since I watched that movie, but I'm like, I vaguely recall that.
I'll be honest. When you all said Cloak and Dagger, my mind went to Marvel's superhero duo.
Yeah.
That is what
Initially.
shows up first.
Wrong-
That-
wrong
You have to
answer.
specify.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely the wrong answer. But then you were like the kid that shoots somebody. I was like, wait, hold on, it's
Wait a
coming
second.
back to me.
Hold on, I'm gonna watch this clip.
While Spice is watching that clip real quick.
But
He
but, yeah,
has
but
a
you could,
pistol, and there's this guy in this like 80s outfit with like an assault rifle sauntering up to this
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
So I will note that if you do a Google search for Cloak and Dagger movie and click videos, it is the second video.
Yep.
but I do remember. I'll say something else is coming back to me now.
Yeah.
So in the movie, he has his father, who's kind of an undisconnected guy, and his imaginary hero in his life is just his father, but a badass.
Yes.
And what I find very tragic about the end of that film is his imaginary father figure gets shot and dies. Which I'm like, what the fuck?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine you go through this journey, right? Your imaginary father figure dies, and then you have to go back to your real reality where your father
I think-
sucks.
Well, I think by the end the father's redeemed himself a little bit. That's
Oh, I
the
think
whole,
you're
like,
right.
The whole plot line. If I haven't watched this movie, I think I watched it like 13 years ago. It was the last time I watched that movie. But, yeah.
That's a pretty common 80s trope, right? Dads in the 80s and 90s sucked. That was just kind of a thing.
Well, I mean,
that
they
did.
prioritize work over their family. That was
Yeah.
just the
True.
way it went, right?
Very
and
true.
And their kids suffered from it.
That's
Hallmark
what triggers
Channel
the
hasn't
kid.
been-
Oh my! Sorry, I'm so sorry. What Ian just described of the imaginary dad
Mhm.
getting killed. The bad guy shoots the wall where the kid's hallucinating his friend, and that's what triggers the kid to kill the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old fever dreams. All right.
Oh yeah.
That came true.
The 80s is a weird time.
It is a
No,
weird
yeah,
time.
but like, I guess you could kind of argue that this, like, because it was 82 Cloak and Dagger,
Mhm.
For that one, 84.
84. Okay, so that was kind of like the collapse of Atari corporate. for the most part, because I think around this time period they were going to sell to the Tramiels, so that kind of changed that whole dynamic. So Atari was doing whatever buy-ins they could at that point to produce content. But yeah,
Atari, from my understanding, at this point in time in '83 and '84, is just desperate to stay in the game as much as they can, and so
they bloated their own market.
Well, because they went in heavy with the 5200, which because people didn't understand that, at least in the like consumers moving from the 70s into the early 80s. They had VCRs and things that would go for like a decade, right? They hadn't upgraded their television in 10 years, so they didn't see that whole. They saw it as what's the word I'm looking for? Like your oven, right? Like
an
that
appliance?
object, an appliance. Thank you, an appliance in your house, right? Something that would sit there for a long time. So Atari, the market wasn't conditioned right to understand that there was a phase where that your product would become obsolete. You'd have to get the next thing for better products, and these consumers didn't understand that back then.
Yeah, I mean, especially 70s, 80s, into the 90s, your appliances just worked. I mean, you'd have a fridge for 70 years.
Yeah, you'd have a TV you'd buy your first color TV back in like 75, and you'd have that all the way into the 80s.
Yeah,
it's still working. It's still good.
My parents still have their refrigerator from '97.
Yeah, probably better made than what we have now.
They don't make them like they used to.
They really don't. Though.
Appliances?
They don't.
No, they don't.
Yo, since we're on appliances, I have to mention this. I did see a video where they had swing out shelves.
Yeah.
Like shelves that swung out of the fridge so you could put stuff in the back without having to like reach all the way back up in there. Why is that not a thing anymore? I also saw one that had dual not latches. Now I'm not thinking of the word. Pins?
See, I had a stroke about appliances. That was mine.
Sure. So it's going around. But they had like dual hinges. That's what it is. Yeah, dual hinges. I've never been so excited to say the word hinge in my life until this moment. But you could open it from the left or the right, depending on which way you hit the lever.
Oh, yeah. That was an awesome
Why is that not a thing?
You put, your fridge is in the wrong spot. Don't worry about it. We'll just open it the other way.
Yeah, because you could do that. You can't anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now I got my...
Remember what they took from us, Dave.
Yeah, never forget.
Look, I don't know what y'all are on about. I prefer my Gullwing fridge.
That'd be hot.
It does not have the same clearance that you would expect.
It doesn't. All my eggs would hit the floor and just crack, and it'd be terrible. So Last Starfighter again was attempted to do a movie. The movie is fun, 80s. Not near with as much battling that's happening. Not nearly as gory as the Cloak and Dagger. Who knew?
It was PG. The rating on that movie was PG.
Yep.
I can read you the IMDb tags, and you won't believe me.
Doesn't a game clerk get stabbed to death, like a clerk in the store? Am I
think
remembering that correctly?
I feel like video games don't make people violent. I feel like video game movies make people violent.
Or depressed based on
depressed.
Disappointment. But
Yeah, I mean that too.
Okay, here are the top 5 tags on the IMDb page for Cloak and Dagger. Girl, child protagonist, prostitute, kiss, attempted child murder. PG.
Some of these things are not like the others.
To be fair, it does say parental guidance.
Didn't mention the therapy bill at the end of that.
So if you're happy with that, Spice, I mean, the next video game to a movie thing could be. I don't know. Your mileage may vary.
He is pleased by this.
But what is it? The next big video game movie adaptation of that is The Wizard, which is.
I mean, that's just a Nintendo commercial.
Yeah, it's just a really, really big.
Love the Power Glove.
Commercial.
It's so bad.
So bad.
California.
California. I just remember watching The Wizard as a kid and getting disappointed that this was the end of the movie, but really, really wanting to know where that is. I want that video game tournament.
I just want that TV.
I just want the
was the
Power Glove that
projector.
functions the way that it did in the movie.
The one that actually worked, yeah.
Yeah, that kid can control his whole house with that thing.
What are you, a Helldiver?
Hell yeah.
They promised us everything and gave us nothing.
It's true.
That's Star Trek.
Oh, no, they gave us Mario 3. This whole thing
Yeah, they
was
gave
for
away the
Mario
secrets
3.
on it, yeah.
They did be giving us Mario 3.
It was really just I feel like that was kind of like Universal and them trying to pander to Nintendo to try and get the film rights
Mhm.
for the Mario movie, which didn't happen. I think it
No,
went to New Line Cinema, right?
Yeah, it did.
it didn't even
Yeah.
go to New Line. It went to
Did
like
it?
Yeah.
it went to some like really low key production company.
Yeah, I guess I got to find out who produced that. That's
That
The
was
Mario movie or the
the 1993 Mario
the 1993 Mario? Because that's the first actual. We have a video game. We turned
major
it into
IP.
a movie.
Yeah,
This isn't the cross-eyed. This isn't just if we made a movie and then turned it into a video game or a big advertisement. Nope, this is Super Mario 3 or Super Mario Brothers the movie in 1993, and that is a beloved disaster.
It's
me.
so
Yeah.
good.
Honestly-
can I tell you guys a personal story about?
Yeah.
Mario?
Yeah, go for it.
So I was trying to find that to watch it like on streaming platforms, and it was nowhere to be found. I couldn't even buy it on YouTube.
Light
And I was
motive.
like, and I wanted to punish my children, and so I had to go into my closet and dig out the DVD to watch.
You're really channeling that '80s dad mode, eh?
Yeah, I'm like, you kids don't know how good you have it now with your Illumination movie that actually like fits the dynamics. We had this abstract fever dream of a film that kind of loosely aligned to Mario, and we just had to accept it in 1993.
That's true.
And that was just what we did, okay? And we saw things. We're like, hey, that's a super scope. I know what that is. It's in the movie, and we had to live with that.
Yeah.
Live with your disappointment, children. That's this. We were prepared early for this.
You don't know how good you have it with
Yeah,
actual
Good.
plots.
like
that work
The
like
together.
soundtrack,
plot-
though. That soundtrack goes way harder than any good movie.
I mean, everyone get on the floor. Everyone do the dinosaur. Absolutely.
yes.
And I will say, like, dream team. If I were going to get two people to play Mario and Luigi, it would be Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo at this time.
Oh yeah, I have
Like,
no problem
no
with
other choice.
casting.
I mean,
Yeah, who-
in my mind, it will always be those two.
Yeah, how could it not be? I remember as a child sitting in front of this movie and being like, "This is it. We've peaked as a society. Like, this is the Mario movie. Holy shit, this is incredible.
No, I will.
Where do
I
we
will.
go from here? Zelda next? If it's like this, I'm excited."
I mean, I do miss when I watched it for the first time, and being a very young person at that time, I had no abstract value as to what was a good or bad film.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And so I was like, oh, when's the next one coming out? Because they had that. It was like the first movie since like He-Man that actually had a cliffhanger,
Yeah,
like in the post credits,
Mhm.
and I was like, yes, it's happening. And no, it never happened.
it's never happening.
No.
Nobody
should-
watched that.
Yeah, shame.
I would have still seen it, but this is in my B movie trash list. Just as a reminder, two of my favorite top movies of all time: Apollo 13, amazing, classic, but it'll be beaten out by The Army of Darkness. That is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That is what I'm going to the
But-
grave with.
So something I will argue though is like, despite how bad '93 is,
Uh-huh.
you're never bored. It is
No.
it is constantly, the pacing is well done,
Yeah,
and it keeps you engaged. And ultimately, the acting of John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins is fantastic. It's way better. And Dennis Hopper being
President Koopa.
President King Koopa.
Uh-huh.
And, well, my
He's not a
favorite-
king. He's not a king. He's
He's
a
sorry,
president.
So, sorry, it's something I got to bring up. So my daughter was like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "It's King Koopa." And she's like, "Who?" And my wife was like, "She knows who Bowser is, you dummy." And I'm like, "Oh, shit."
Oh my god.
I was like, "Oh, shit, that's what he's called now." Damn.
Kids these days, they don't
Yeah.
understand
They
who
don't remember when Koopa was king.
you
Yeah.
or when he was president apparently.
I mean, he was democratically elected. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's true.
Look,
Also, very interesting. Princess Daisy, not Princess Peach.
No.
Well,
In that
because
film.
John Leguizamo, so she
Yeah.
hooked up with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say Mario 93, not a great Mario franchise movie.
The best Mario franchise movie.
Fantastic cyberpunk though.
You know, you're
Mushroom Punk.
It,
Mushroom
it
Punk.
slaps. It hits all. Yeah, Mushroom Punk.
No, it's Fungus Punk.
Fungus Punk.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
fun.
Fungal Punk. Fungal Punk.
He's just a fun guy. Yeah.
I love
Hey, you
this.
know what? It's got a capital F and a capital U
Yeah.
for
But-
all the viewers.
I love this.
But yeah, just abstract adaptation of just ideas from the game that are brought over, like the boots you have to load the cartridge into in order to jump.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All of those things, and sticking very closely to the plumber dynamic, to where they would always wear their tools, and that was a part of their personality. Just great.
Yoshi is an
imagine
actual
why.
dinosaur, like
Yeah.
not like a cute little approximation of a dinosaur, a literal dinosaur.
I mean,
He's on
technically,
loan
so
for
was
Jurassic
King
Park.
Koopa.
Sure, but like they looked a little different at times. I just want to be in that meeting where it's like, all right, what are we gonna do for Yoshi? Oh, like the dinosaur thing, like the cute little guy. Yeah. What are we gonna do for that?
The dinosaur.
Let's make him a dinosaur.
Like,
Like,
dinosaur.
What, isn't nobody else a dinosaur?
just make him a dinosaur. Kids love dinosaurs.
I mean, we turn guys into tiny head people.
It's true. The Koopas.
Oh,
I mean, like if
The
you
Goombas.
man, looking back at that now, that scene is actually kind of traumatic to where they like forcibly de-evolve the guy.
Watched it
wow.
way too young.
Goes kind of hard. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Also, because this movie was so good, they decided not to make another video game franchise movie for 30 years because it was just too good.
Nay, sir.
Especially Nintendo.
Nay.
You can't.
They just didn't touch Mario. They
Yeah.
did do other ones. Double Dragon came out next. Also,
Oh,
weirdly, a
shit.
cyberpunk No, it was like a post-apocalyptic dystopia.
Yes.
I
Oh.
unironically love the Double Dragon movie.
So
Double
there's
Dragon, Mortal Kombat.
Mortal
Hang on,
Kombat. Okay,
Mortal
we'll get to
Kombat,
Mortal
we'll
Kombat.
get
We'll
to
get
that,
there,
that-
but
that-
like,
That is a
That
also
deserves its
very-
own thing, but Double Dragon is a ride from start to finish.
One of the things I love about the Double Dragon movie is no matter what, it always has this weird feeling back to the. You guys ever watched the live action Fist of the North Star movie?
yes.
So it always has these weird vibes that like cue back to that for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
Yes.
know what there might maybe production crew was involved. I've never looked into this. As me speaking off the cuff here, but like there's always something that like linked those two together. Especially like the longer that film went, the weirder the Double Dragon film got. Like the river being on fire, you're like, okay, pollution, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's the thing.
But just like then, like the guys that are on the roids that are all huge, and then the actor who played the Liquid
Abobo.
Terminator was in that one as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that oh my gosh, I can't remember his name now.
Robert
Patton. No.
Yeah.
Patrick.
Robert Patrick. thank you.
Yes, Robert Patrick.
Um,
He's the villain in there.
And I legit haven't watched that movie since probably it came out.
Same.
That movie I
Dust off your
loved,
VHS.
but I also always got very like sad because of Abobo when he like was on that like
Uber
steroid. He
steroids?
would get so roided up, and then
Yeah.
and then he sees himself in the mirror. And he starts crying about it, and I was like, no, now I'm sad.
Yeah, that is a hard scene to watch.
And then he became a good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the Goonies. What was the guy named in that one?
I know exactly the character.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're going for that formula in Double
Yeah.
Dragon
Mhm.
for some reason.
well in
Yeah.
Double Dragon, it just made me sad.
You have an empathy back in the 90s. What are you doing?
I know, and in '94, so a 4-year-old me was so pleased to see the Double Dragon movie, and then I cried about a giant roided up man, and then I had nightmares about the same roided up man. So
I do have to say, I love that our show notes say Abobo gives Brandon sad nightmares when he was a child.
I wrote that.
I'm proud. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you brought it up.
Look, can you imagine? Can you imagine like thinking that guy's like under your bed? You know? Like,
Oh
just-
no!
Oh.
Now it's all I can think about.
Why would
Thank you.
say
Why would you do that? No, you're welcome. Sorry.
So interesting.
You know what? That's the next thing you need to start your kids on if you want to really punish them. Is this movie?
There you go.
Sloth.
Oh, yeah.
Sloth is the guy from the Goonies.
Yeah. there we go.
Wow.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said Chunk earlier, and I was going to say no, but
No,
but
Chunk
yeah.
is the Sloth
Is the
becomes
kid.
friends with Shaw.
Yeah.
With Sloth.
I also have to note that one of the leads in the Double Dragon movie is the Iron Chef America chairman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
So what's kind of funny is that actor.
He's in John
became-
Wick
he-
actually as well.
Well,
oddly
he
enough.
became a pretty big martial artist for a while. Like,
Yeah.
so he did a number of things, a variety of other franchises, did a couple of other TV shows, and really good martial artist. But like that film was kind of where he got some notoriety.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
and that's,
okay,
you know,
you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
True.
The concept of the video game movie was rising here. You know, I mean, yeah, Mario might have had a really, really bad start to the whole formula, but that was one that's arguably more difficult to adapt. When you're looking at something like Double Dragon, which is really just
It's a beat 'em up.
well, it's a belt scroller. So
Yeah.
I mean, it just
What
moves
do
forward.
you do with that, right? For adapting it to a popular
You look
video
at it
game,
like a
right?
fighting thing, like a
Mhm.
fighting game, which is where I think we have the most video game adaptations, and also oddly enough, probably the widest variety in qualities.
Some of the
Yeah,
better
'cause-
ones at the time.
Yeah, because I
And
think
some of the worst.
Yeah, because once you get to Mortal Kombat 1995, you get probably one of the best video game movies
It
in terms of like on screen out
Yeah.
of
Yes.
at least
Yeah.
the entire
You're
90s.
So
correct.
this
for the
is
most
why we
part.
have to separate this from everyone else, because before 95, you like the you have Street Fighter the movie, and then you have the game so you have the game Street Fighter. Now it's become Street Fighter the movie, and then you also have Street Fighter the movie, the game, which they added a character which is a background character in Street Fighter the movie.
Blade. His name's Blade.
Yeah.
Not to be
Sorry.
confused with the vampire.
Not being
No,
confused with that part.
You've lost
I-
your balls.
I
Right, it's right in the movie, sorry.
unironically love the Street Fighter movie from
It's
94.
great.
You
Honestly,
either love it or hate it. There's like
It's-
very few like people like, eh.
it's not good, but it is great.
I mean, Raul
Correct.
Julius
That is the
delivers
right answer.
one of the single greatest fucking lines ever delivered in a movie. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, quick, change the channel.
well, no,
No,
like,
that's DJ.
the day I came to the
that's
village,
Zangief.
the day I came to your village was the single greatest day of your life. For me, it was just a Tuesday.
Oh
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, like that's absolutely gorgeous.
And the
Rest
fact
in
that he
peace,
did it
Raul
for
Julia.
his kids as
Yeah.
well also is just like this guy.
This guy, Raul Julia, is the main reason you're going in there. Not you, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I know you're coked up for most of this film.
I couldn't give a shit about Jean-Claude Van Damme. Everyone else in that movie is way better in it.
Look,
Yeah.
he's
Kylie
not
Minogue is
coked up.
Cammy?
He's also
God.
boning
Oh, yeah,
Kylie
Minogue.
Minogue. Oh my god. Anyway.
He's having an affair with her while he's snorting cocaine off of the table. We all know that's what happened.
Who could
Is
blame
Ming
him?
Na
She's
Wen in
gorgeous.
that movie?
Who?
Ming Na Wen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's Chun-Li.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she
Chun-Li.
is.
Man, he's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is all over the place
Well.
because she's also in she's Aki in the Spirits Within movie.
Yeah, and then she's also, Mulan.
And she's Mulan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
some minor roles in there.
just throw
But
a
Chun-Li though, but Chun-Li.
Chun-Li. That's the claim to fame right
That's her
there.
breakout American role because she was
Mhm.
also in one of the Police Story movies, I think.
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of them.
Those are also great movies. God damn it. I'm so
Mhm.
mad I missed the choreography episode because I had things as I'm still working through that edit for the video. It's like, I should have been here.
I
Just
wish you were.
bothers
Should have
me.
been a
voice.
contender. But
We
yeah,
missed
so
you.
Just add in
You
editor
just add your
clips.
voice.
Yeah,
That's
just
true.
add you're
So-
the editor.
Don't tempt
Abuse your
me.
power.
So we have to take a break from all these movies that existed in 94, and we get to 95, which is Mortal Kombat. And honestly,
Mortal
Kombat.
Kombat.
Techno Syndrome.
Do 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 Mortal Kombat.
Hey,
If you-
Dan, you're breaking the internet. I want you to know this.
I love that fucking movie, and that soundtrack is
Oh,
Gold.
soundtrack's gold. It is solid gold.
you could drink it with a straw.
Mhm.
It's so good and buttery.
And butter. Look, and I love it, and I'm not ashamed to it. I watched that Mortal Kombat movie. Love it.
Yeah.
And they had everything that I could want for that. Oh no, is Johnny Cage gonna do the split punch? Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Right into Goro's nuts.
Mhm.
See, I
Wow.
just like the opening where he kicks the shit out of the one guy, and he's just like, "This is where you fall down." Oh yeah.
Oh,
Ugh.
Well, so you got to give it up, though, right? It's a fighting game. Fighting games, if you break down the plot for a fighting game, there's not a whole lot there. You're picking at straws and you're hoping for the best. Like,
Well, I guess to be fair though, I think Mortal Kombat among all the fighting games that were out, it probably had the most plot in
Yeah,
terms of like what it
had the
offered.
deepest lore, man.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I mean, as far as like gameplay, shallow as hell, right? But like,
Yeah.
but as far as like they're going to this alternate reality to fight for Earth, like so, like there's great things you can do there.
oh yeah. And here's the thing: if you are in for that, it's a fun ride for the whole
Yeah.
movie.
Have you guys watched it recently in like HD?
Yes.
I have not
Not
seen it in
in
HD.
So
Not
watch
HD.
it again in HD and look at Goro's mouth.
It's
None of it is synced. It's great.
oh
It is so bad.
no.
But
so,
like,
I rebought I already had them on DVD, but I rebought them when they released them on Blu-ray because they came with bonus skin codes for Reptile in the
That's
most
your
recent game release.
Fair enough.
that's
And I
hilarious.
love Reptile. I always loved him, and then they kind of halfway do them right, then they also do them dirty in the sequel movie.
Mhm.
I mean, they do the entire
do
franchise
everyone.
dirty in the sequel movie.
So-
yeah.
I mean, okay, but Liu Kang becomes a dragon. That deserves some props.
No, it doesn't, because that was the first pass of visual effects, and they
Sure.
released it like that.
Sure,
That gets no props.
but also they put that in a movie.
He turned into a dragon still.
That's
He
also
turned
fair.
into a dragon.
I will
I
say
apparently
Phil
blanked out
Bolt.
the second one.
the
Annihilation.
You're not the
Good,
only
good for
one.
you. Good for you.
yeah.
I remember nothing of it.
I hate to say that movie lives rent free in my head, but it's not for good reasons.
That movie has squatters' rights in your head.
Almost all the actors change in the second movie.
A
They're
lot
like-
of them
they're-
do.
There
You're like,
are,
what?
I think you could count 3 that did not change.
Hold on, I'm gonna look
Raiden,
that up.
Liu
No,
Kang.
Raiden changed, yeah.
Did he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he went from Highlander to oh Jesus, what's his name?
Christopher Lambert.
It went from Christopher Lambert to some other guy I've seen in other stuff, but he reminds me a lot of Ed Harris. Just has it-
Yeah.
Yeah. Ed Harris should not.
it's not Ed Harris, but I mean he reminds me a lot of Ed Harris. The worst thing though about the Mortal Kombat movie is the legacy that now follows that director. As far as I'm concerned, which is he then gets the Resident Evil rights down the line.
Oh, James Remar. You're right. Holy
No,
shit.
it's Paul
No, that's-
W.S.
John-
Anderson.
It's James Remar in the second movie for Raiden.
Oh,
Raiden-
yeah, thank you. Yes.
Oh, yeah, but Anderson. What's kind of funny though is he went on to direct a really good horror film, Event Horizon.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
talented
before-
when he's not adapting video games. He's pretty good at it.
And
Yeah.
I can even admit that I enjoyed the Monster
Well-
Hunter movie when it came
well,
around to it. But
I mean, I
like-
feel like now it's just he's like, my wife needs a job.
Look,
no, it's
my kids are going to college. What other franchises do you got for me? Dig Dug, I'm in.
no, because he just pulled from Capcom. Remember this.
Oh, true.
That's all he does now.
That's true.
God, I forgot about the Monster Hunter movie. Holy shit!
I've
that
never
one was-
seen it.
The
There's
best
reason.
part about that movie is Tony Jaa, and then the surprise Ron Perlman.
Well, yeah, it's like they got Tony Jaa in that. They barely use him. And
Correct.
then-
Oh,
and the thing
that's
that kills
not the way
me
it
is they
went.
have a literal engagement between like an M1 Abrams and a dinosaur,
Yeah, it's fucking bad.
and I'm like, what? It's just
It's really bad.
You
It
see,
is horrible.
Historic Nerd, what you don't realize is the dinosaurs actually adapted special plates to withstand warthog bullets.
No,
Yes, so we rip them
well,
off and use
no.
them as plate armor now for our transforming weapons.
So I guess I am that army guy, right? That bitches about movies. But like I will complain in that scene when like they have like literally the gunners up, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I've seen those dudes fucking lob rounds downrange in under a second,
Yeah.
and so I'm just like, no, that's not how that would have worked.
Really
So I'm
not
just
a
like,
good
no.
movie.
Totally fair.
But I digress. That's all for way later. After the first Mortal Kombat movie, we kind of have a bit of a weird lull almost, at least in terms of high.
Well, so yeah, I guess you'd say from '95. So the big one that really impacted my life, because I was a huge fan of Wing Commander, was when Wing Commander came out in 1999. And that was what was crazy about that one was that Chris Roberts actually got the film rights back from Origin and EA because he had separated and created Digital Anvil, and he made like the Freelancer and Starlancer series.
Okay, yeah.
And so he got the rights, and he ultimately he had a really fascinating and good movie planned out. So I can defend this movie all day because it's an insane guilty pleasure of mine.
Fair.
But it's actually the funny thing is this movie actually had bullet time around the same. They were producing and creating a bullet time shot the same time The Matrix was, even though that they came out a little bit after. So their production windows were pretty close to each other. So I thought that was really interesting about how both films had that, even though Wing Commander really didn't need it.
I had
Yeah.
absolute whiplash from Wing Commander because of Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that
the
was.
cheesy
I
incredible.
knew him in Hackers first.
Mhm.
Then I saw him in SLC Punk, which is a fantastic movie. And then I saw this, and I was like, what is happening right
Well,
now?
and then what's even weirder is because like when watching this movie in the 90s, you had the games where you actually had Mark Hamill who played Tony Blair. And then,
Yeah,
and then you had
that's
Maniac,
true.
who's played by the actor who played Biff Tannen from the Back to the Future ones. So great actors in that franchise established already. But
And they
But
used
what's
none
kind
of
of funny though is I feel like this kind of hit that weird trend in game movies where the movie would get made after the game franchise really lost relevance. Because
Yeah.
the last Wing Commander
Mhm.
game was 97. And so this came out 2 years after. And so people were like, why do I care about this movie now? You know?
Because got Shaggy in it.
Yeah.
But that's
Shaggy
pretty
and
Shaggy.
Freddie
And Fred.
Prinze Jr., who was
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie
huge
Prinze
at the
Jr.
time.
Shaggy and Fred.
Yeah,
Before they were
but
Shaggy
this is
and Fred.
before they were Shaggy and Fred. They don't have Shaggy and Fred cred yet.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shaggy and Fred cred.
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
That's
The
thing yet.
little known
Say that 3
actors of
times
Matthew
fast.
Lillard from Scream fame at
Oh,
this time,
so
and Freddie
got-
Prinze Jr., who wasn't known for anything at this time either. Yeah,
I got-
these
They're
nobodies.
just indie actors.
I got one more story for you about Wing Commander
Yeah.
really quick, the personal one. So the night that movie came out, I get my friend to basically get his parents to take us because my family wants nothing to do with it, and so we get to the theater, buy our tickets, go in to watch the movie, and like, oh, there's a bunch of people here. This movie's probably going to do pretty well. All right, and what was interesting is actually Wing Commander was one of the few films that actually had the trailer for Phantom Menace attached to it. And so
that
that
was a mandatory trailer
a
for
mandatory trailer for it. And so after the trailer for Phantom Menace played, half the theater, probably more than half the theater, stood up and walked out.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And so I was like, oh no.
This is the Batman
I mean-
89 all over again. That's what happened to the people would come in to see the trailer to Batman 89 and then bounce.
Yeah. And that happened. It was amazing at the time. Vivid memories.
Oh, the days
It's
before
interesting
YouTube.
too,
Yeah.
just knowing how that works at least now is that like because now everything's digital with theaters and stuff. Like I mentioned in the pre-show that no one else gets to see. Ha ha ha. That my
Subscribe
wife,
to our Patreon. No.
if only that was a tier, right? That my wife ran a movie theater for like 5-7 years, somewhere in there, and they would get like these hard drives that have the movie instead of film reels, but then they would also be allotted basically a list of trailers, and there were some that were absolutely unequivocally mandatory, but then there were some where you got to pick and choose based on what was coming. So like oh, you're getting this movie here from Disney or whatever fake not real movie name that they attach to it so no one steals it. And you absolutely, without question, have to put this other Disney movie trailer in there, period, end of discussion. It's a Marvel movie. It's going out. It's like, okay, well, you got it. But then everything else is whatever you want. Fill the space.
Would you now, like, I know we live in a completely different era with like
Yeah.
YouTube and like quick access to trailers. Would you now, if you knew there was an exclusive trailer hitting a movie, would you do that? Where you would pay money to go watch the trailer and then bounce afterwards?
Well, I think, I don't know, man. Because
What franchise?
There was such a difference though between like, because it had been like a 20-year lull between Star Wars films, and that was like the first thing. So there was a cultural relevance to that. Now it's not quite the same thing. Maybe if it was like, I don't even know what franchise would even spark it the same way.
Terminator,
Yeah.
maybe.
Terminator?
I'm saying, like, go back in time to the same time frame. You had the first Terminator, and then you go to the second Terminator. That's suddenly coming. What? That's been like what, 15 years or so? Because wasn't
got-
that?
Maybe.
I've got two that would get
It was
me.
like close. It was at least 10 years. I know that much.
Yeah, like Terminator 3 came out what?
2000 something or other.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
though when you're going from, I guess, like, because we don't talk about 3 that much for reasons.
Mhm.
But like when you go from the first Terminator film to the second one, if you hear, oh, this movie's coming, it's going to have the first reveal trailer for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and it's like, well, they painted that to be so terrifying. What the hell is going to happen with Judgment Day? I mean, that could have a similar cultural impact as Star Wars, although not to the same level, obviously, because Star Wars is just, space wizard samurai.
This would not have the same cultural significance, but it does have a
no.
deep personal significance to me. If they told me they were going to release a new Three Ninjas movie, and that the only way to see the first trailer, because that was 94,
Yep.
I would
So
consider
the-
this.
the math works out
Mhm.
100%. Also, I could see Stargate.
Would this be
Mm.
would this
Stargate, I
be
like.
a Three Ninjas movie like in the same timeline, so they're all middle-aged men now?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, I would
Yeah.
definitely watch that.
Yeah,
that's the only
100%.
way.
I'm curious now.
Look,
I mean-
want a direct sequel to High Noon at Mega Mountain. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
Big Bang Mike is a guy I follow on social media. He was the original child Red Ranger, and he was Colt in those
Mhm.
films. And I think he'd be down for it, probably. I bet we could convince him.
Kickstarter this. We could do this.
Yeah.
Indiegogo, baby.
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo. I would accept a direct sequel to the original Mario movie.
You know, that would be hard to do. As I believe
Bring
Mr.
all
Hoskins.
the actors
Well, you know,
back
we
if
could
you can.
if we got the rights to just a deep fake,
Yeah,
fake him into the movie.
I think Mr. Hoskins is no longer with us.
The Disney tax.
And neither is Mr. Hopper.
So
Yeah.
that both of those would be a little bit difficult. But didn't
So
President Koopa die at the end?
Yeah, he
think
gets
so,
exploded
yeah.
by the
Well, I mean-
Super Scope D.
I mean, the actor who played Mario and Koopa have both passed away. So
Yeah.
you'd have to have two deep faked actors in that.
Oh,
Well,
I don't.
Or-
could also just make it like, oh, it's Leguizamo's Luigi and Mathis's Daisy, at a funeral.
Oh
Morning
no,
Boss
too
of
real!
Mario.
You can't kill Mario.
They
Or-
didn't. Nature did.
Luigi's
nature.
Mansion.
Or they-
Yes.
Just
Okay,
Luigi's
you win.
Mansion.
You win. You win. Yes, and then it's Mario who's guiding you through the mansion.
Yes.
Or you just pull a Ghostbusters Afterlife and just
Mhm.
do it at the
Yeah,
end.
it's perfect.
Yeah, for like a
I
couple frames. Yeah, good.
Also, would accept them replacing Mario and Luigi, even though we've mentioned it's already the dream team. It's the perfect cast. No notes. Replace Mario and Luigi, but Leguizamo has to come back as Waluigi.
I think he
Damn
did.
it, dude.
I'd pay
Can
money
we
for
get
that.
Jack
I think
Black
so,
as
eligible for that.
Mario?
I mean, I'm
get
sure.
him as Bowser.
How about Wario?
Let's just do
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
I-
God! Yes.
I
Oh.
prefer him as Wario. I think. he's
I
better.
prefer
Okay.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
You win.
Mario
I'm
needs to be
sorry.
more
Historic Nerd has a historic win here on GTP's podcast.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
That's a victory for all.
Yeah,
Make
That-
it happen,
that-
Hollywood.
and then put a mandatory trailer in front of another movie so that we have to go buy a ticket to see it.
Put it
Yeah,
in front of a Star Wars movie.
Mhm.
Circle.
Full circle.
Or
Yeah.
we could do Tropic Thunder style, and it's a bunch of fake ass trailers.
Ooh, okay.
Like that
Okay.
too.
And
Yeah.
then it'll piss off all the fans because we'll make sure there's a Metroid movie trailer in there.
That's
Mhm.
true.
Again,
We'll
make
get to a
gimmicks in
funny
movie
Metroid
theaters.
story in just a bit.
So we're in the 2000s now, right?
Oh.
We're in
The new
2000s.
millennium, baby.
So with that, actually, at this point in the 2000s, since Mortal Kombat came out, which is the important key moment on there,
Best one.
movie theaters have been, or movie companies have been actually seeking out to get video game rights because you have to have one that works. Is I guess the short end of that story.
They're out of ideas at this point.
Yeah,
Mortal
I got
Kombat
that
worked
ideas for a while.
great.
but in the 2000s, it was more of Mortal Kombat made a ton of money and justified itself to make a sequel. Sequel no good. You're better off
Disagree.
never seeing it.
Philistines.
Just
Actually,
watch
it
Luke
for my
Cage.
I don't know what
memory.
you're talking about. It didn't happen
Yeah.
because they made one movie. It was really good. and
I
then
don't
they-
think it's real. I think you all are just feeding me lies right now.
Annihilation was great, and I will
Just-
hear nothing
just
else.
gaslighting you into believing it didn't.
Look, Dane,
Uh-huh,
you and I
yeah,
are going to
yeah.
fight about that later.
Deal.
Um,
I'll see you in Mortal Kombat.
Oh,
Nice.
I prefer the King of Fighters.
Shit. Well,
Ooh, King of
have they
Fighters.
made a live action King of Fighters?
They did. It's horrible. We'll get to that
Yeah.
later.
And they also did make a live action Tekken film as well.
And
I like that one.
Dead or Alive.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
anyway.
like that one.
It was not
I'm
good.
sorry, I missed a Dead or
No.
Alive live action.
It's not.
oh
good.
yeah, it is
Yeah,
not.
I
good,
don't
but
care.
I am.
And that was a high profile one, too. That actually got.
no
lot
kidding.
of
They
hype.
had such a high profile episode. Like they even got to film that in places you can't normally film.
Yeah.
Like
that
they
was
did
a
extra
filming
work
nightmare.
to not.
I'm
shoot that
surprised. Speaking of all these fighting game movies, I'm really surprised we haven't had a Soul Calibur movie.
movie. Yeah, honestly,
Hollywood would eat that up, I feel like.
it's got pirates.
Yeah, but it's got everything.
Got ninjas.
Undead dudes. It's got pirates. It's got ninjas. It's got pretty ladies. It's got pretty men. Like
I mean, I gotta say, it's a tale of sword and souls eternally retold.
it's got whatever the hell Voldo is. Like
S&M man.
yeah, sure.
Does my
Um,
local
yeah.
library have a copy of Dead or Alive on DVD?
We're- I
2006.
hope
It
not.
used to be on Tubi for a while. I don't know if it's still there. But yeah, no, we're getting into the 2000s. Now, in the 2000s, we're starting to see this rise of video games turned into movies and such. We haven't gotten to the point of video games going to the shows. We'll get to that because, honestly, the only one I can think of from the 90s is Maniac Mansion, and it's just a love tap into what Maniac Mansion is.
If we're talking live action, at least.
If we're talking live action, yeah.
Cartoons
so
are
are
endless.
we ignoring the Super Mario Brothers Super Show and everything that happened?
No.
there?
Super
Okay.
Mario Brothers Super Show still works, and it is solid. And you'll be surprised because it pulled a Simpsons. So Super Mario Brothers Super Show is a thing, and then they had little cartoons for Mario Brothers in those. It's similar to how Tracy Ullman Show had the Simpsons, and then the Simpsons spin off into its own television show and did the Simpsons for it all.
Spice, do you remember the Legend of Zelda drinking game we did?
I have heard legends of that evening repeatedly.
It's still one of my favorite stories to tell people. It's like level 1 of lore, getting to know Spice.
You've unlocked the C rank conversation.
Yeah, it's a C rank. It's like Fire Emblem. So I have known Ian for a long time, and he is an amazing person who has always been awesome in my life. So I didn't get to do a 21st birthday because I was older than the rest of my friends.
Okay.
So like drinking kind of off the table. 22nd birthday, Ian's like, we're doing a party at my house for your birthday. And I brought DVDs of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show with me that had all the Legend of Zelda cartoons on them. And
That's a Friday night special.
Oh yeah. And the gentleman I was dating at the time and one of my best friends at the time, everyone kind of turned it into a drinking game of every time Link says, excuse me,
Princess.
you get a shot.
Oh no.
Two issues here.
Okay, first off, how are you not dead?
I was wise.
The fatal mistake in that one was we included the intro. Excuse me, Princess.
Yep.
Oh.
And so mathematically, you're looking at
every
at
15
least
minutes.
Episodes were 15 minutes, but he said it at least
3 times.
3 to 4 times an episode if you include the intro. So you're looking at like
intro,
every 3 minutes you're taking a shot.
The second fatal mistake
big
here
mistakes.
is that Ian, being the gracious host that he is, had double shot glasses, not single shot glasses.
Ian's here like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Well, I think that was like $2,007, and I think I ended up spending like $200 in alcohol for that evening.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah,
That's like $400 today.
yeah, like
Good evening.
Probably more.
So
You're not wrong.
the people who kept with the game the longest, which was my boyfriend at the time and the best friend, they did not tap out. They saw the train coming and said, we got this. By the end of disc 1, I don't even think we got to disc 2, but I remember by the end of the night, the friend had wandered into another friend's home, and by my recollection, slept in their shower with his clothes on and the water going all night. And then my boyfriend, he was wearing someone's tutu that I remember. I was drunk too. I can admit that. How could you not be in this scenario? He was wearing someone's tutu and eating pizza and got sick. And that's about all I remember of that night. And I think Ian kind of filled in a lot of the gaps for me along the way.
The ultimate story for why I don't drink, I mean, other than traumas and past crap it's not relevant here, but even though this isn't either, is when a coworker told me that when you wake up with your pants off in the middle of the Nevada desert and no understanding or reasoning as to why you're there, a second time, you stop drinking tequila.
A second time.
A second time.
That's what really got me. I'm like, you want to
fool me
elaborate
once.
first, please?
Yeah, the nickel.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice.
Where was it going? Right, now I remember where it's going.
2000s.
Video game
Tirade
movies.
That
Sorry.
is the video game movies in the 2000s.
This is
No,
the
it was
segment
something
that goes
specifically
to
for that. So,
Patreon.
like, it's a weird thing because Nintendo will basically use cartoons as their own advertisement for most of the 90s. So you have the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which was live action and animated. Then they took the animated portions and turned that into, and every Friday you would get Legend of Zelda, which is why there's only 13 episodes. And then after that, you would end up getting the Super Mario Brothers show, and then you got the Super Mario. Then because they wanted to also spin off Legend of Zelda, but they didn't want to build the Legend of Zelda episodes for some reason, they made Captain N the Game Master, which is advertising for all their other stuff. And I think by season 2, they added a Game Boy in there. And then after that, you also have Super Mario 3, Super Mario World for the SNES. And then you also have, that is all Nintendo just advertising themselves.
At least
Unlike
somebody
Sonic-
recognizes a Game Boy.
Well, you did have the Sonic cartoons as well.
Yeah,
that-
Sonic
that
took a
were
weird
pretty big.
turn.
Those
'cause
were-
you had-
they were real big. I love those.
There's a lot of them too.
Well, so there's 2 versions of them when that was around. First,
Well, originally, yes.
because you had one that was treated like a very Looney Tunes-esque Saturday morning cartoon,
Mhm.
and the other one that was treated as like this epic
Post-apocalyptic.
90s post-apocalyptic dramatic
Sally
series.
Acorn's Freedom Fighter.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. To this day, here's the thing, right?
Right.
I'm not the biggest Sonic fan in the world. Not because I don't like them, I do, but I never got like into the lore like a lot of my friends did. But you have created such interesting characters as a bunch of anthropomorphic woodland freedom fighters, and then you never use them again except for in the comics on occasion. Like, you have a bunny who has 2 robotic legs and a robotic arm.
Oh, and a tragic backstory.
And a tragic backstory. You have a French weasel or something? I don't even know what Antoine was. He was. I hated him as a
So
kid.
Antoine's the French weasel, but he's really, he's
a coyote.
really got a weird
He's a coyote.
trauma because he thinks that it's his, because he wants to live up to his dad's potential.
Yeah.
Who used to be the head of the guard.
Yeah, like, you've got Sally Acorn. She wears a vest. I don't remember her backstory, but I bet it's cool. Like, why are we not funding this?
Like, honestly, Sonic's backstory in that was the late one, and he run fast. That was pretty much it.
One thing about Sonic you've got to know is that he run fast, all right? That's good enough for me. But, I mean, like, I don't know. I just, Shadow's great. Tails is great. Knuckles is great. No hate to any of them. But, like, could we get some of these characters back in the mix is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, and it was a dark story. Robotics literally turning people into robots because he doesn't like animals, period.
Yeah.
It's
messed up,
his
man.
plan of genocide.
Honestly, it makes a lot more
in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense that that's his motivation than like any other Robotnik motivation I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He's just plain evil. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It was like he also worked with Sally's dad as the with the Sidekick King. There's a whole lot of backstory. This episode series only went for like 1 season. There was a lot going on. And
Do you
Sonic's
think-
the least interesting of them all because his backstory is I run fast.
I've
It
just
actually
had
got
this.
2 seasons.
Sure. I've just had this revelation. Do you think that they wanted to make a Mega Man cartoon, but they couldn't get the rights to Mega Man? Because this
Yes,
Sonic
'cause there
cartoon,
was a Mega Man episode, a couple of episodes, but I think they were from the anime side of things.
So
this
there was
show
there was-
has all the hallmarks of a Mega Man game.
So
you know.
there is actually one we do actually get a Mega Man cartoon down the line.
Sure, but not
Um,
now or then.
Not then. in the
Not
early
at this
90s.
point, no. But Mega
Not
Man does
then,
appear in
now
Captain
then.
N as a somewhat regular.
Yeah.
And then we did. Oh, Jesus. Then we get like the anime,
Mhm.
the American anime. I think it might be one of the earliest versions of it because it kind of feels anime, but I'm pretty sure it was an American cartoon.
Because if you think about it, right, like it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Dr. Robotnik is seen as kind of a scientist. He's got a well-meaning fellow scientist who their relationship ends tragically. You've got a band of freedom fighters trying to work against this evil entity. I mean, it's like note for note Mega Man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a revelation for Dane in 2024 right
Both the
now as we're
protagonists
recording
are
it.
blue, you know. It's just...
We could have had a Mega Man.
We have Mega Man at home. It's Sonic.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
And then like Sonic has what? Sequels and spin-offs and spin-off, like they all a new Sonic cartoon I swear comes out every couple of years.
Sonic
Oh.
Underground, I
Sonic
never
Underground,
watched
I
really.
Never watched, but I wanted to.
The
Isn't-
theme song lives in my brain. I can see Sonic's mother, or maybe it's not even Sonic, because there's 3 kids in Sonic Underground. We're getting a little off track now, but it's a video game property. I see the mother, and she has like this monologue about how it's sad she has to give up her children, and then it goes into this like 90s butt rock, just ballad.
So
and it's in my brain forever.
It's funny we're talking about this too, because my wife's on the other side of my desk, like doing artwork, and she is the biggest Sonic fan I have ever met and will ever meet. We have every single US produced Sonic cartoon physical media in the other room. We have Saturday Morning Sonic, we have Sonic the Hedgehog, we have Sonic Underground complete set, we have all of Sonic X, you name it.
Sonic Boom.
Yes, actually,
Boom's real good.
Both sets too, because they did a season 1 set and season 2 set.
Mm-hmm.
End result is though, like she's hearing this and she's like this, like she's like Coyote, not Weasel. 2 seasons, not 1. Like, okay, I've got to help her on the other side here.
So
This is why we bring in experts.
Mm-hmm.
There's future also Sonic the Hedgehog lore episode featuring your wife.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
there's
good.
Sonic Underground.
She's just like, hi. On the other side of the desk.
So there's
Amazing.
also, what is it? There was also Donkey Kong Country that didn't do very well.
We even have, I'm pretty sure, the Sonic OVA, which was like the 45-minute Sonic versus Metal Sonic.
I remember that. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's real good.
When you said Sonic OVA, I'm like an EVA unit? Like
yeah.
Evangelion Sonic?
No.
Get in the mech, Sonic.
No.
But I'm faster out of the mech.
That's always something that is always very funny to me when they take a character like Sonic and it's like, you need to do this thing. And it's like, well, why though?
I can just go fast.
Yeah.
So this is sort of how basically it's a lot of the stuff gets relegated around with animation, and that's the most big hits with the video game side. Until we get to the 2000s. 2000s, people are starting to see that producers and such are starting to see that video games have a market to be turned into a movie if you can get it right. We have what I guess would say hits and misses. Like Tomb Raider was a big hit when that came out.
Weirdly, no, I think with Tomb Raider, right? Because I remember watching Tomb Raider, and enjoy is too strong a word.
Yeah.
I don't think I enjoyed Tomb Raider, but I did go for some specific reasons, and I do remember having a fun time with some of my friends.
Was that
is it because
Angelina Jolie, real pretty?
Look, here's the thing: Angelina Jolie looks great in film, horrible in still pictures.
I wouldn't. Teenage Dane at the time did not matter.
Yeah, Teenage Dane, he just saw 2 mountains and was like, "I'm gonna go and stare at the peaks."
I loved Tomb Raider the game, the series. They're incredible. I'm a big fan of them and the reboots since then.
Reboots are amazing.
But like, did not go for Tomb Raider. If I'm being honest, I went for Angelina Jolie because she's pretty.
There are 2 things I remember about the Tomb Raider films. One is a particular scene where she was initially training, I think, and then like it's dark and a bunch of assassins kind of come in trying to get her. And so she's like pseudo makeshifting like a toolbox basically into projectiles while doing acrobatics on these like descending ropes. And that scene always, stuck with me because I thought it was just a almost like a Cirque du Soleil kind of beauty to it in an essence. And I think, again, this is another reason why I wanted to be on the choreography episode, because that would not have been fun to do, because when you think of the fact that if they do have strings holding them, if they do have wires, they're still spinning around on a hanging rope, and if that shit gets tangled, then there's going to be a whole different problem.
Wirework sucks.
Yeah. And then I also remember that Gerard Butler was in there.
Sequel.
Yeah. I did
sequel?
say
Okay.
the movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the 2 things I remember.
Gerard Butler may have been in it in the sequel, but you know who wasn't? The actual Butler, and they didn't even lock him in the fridge.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Daniel Craig was also in it, actually.
Oh my God, you're right. It just clicked with me, and that hurts me.
I love how excited you are by that. Like, your level of excitement just skyrocketed.
You're telling me the biggest beefcakes of the early 2000s were in the same film together? Yeah.
Impossible.
It's a revelation.
Yeah.
Same room at the same time.
I also,
Crazy.
I'm gonna again the frickin' choreography thing. The last segment of the most recent James Bond film, the final Craig film, where he's doing this gunfight going up a tower. I was like, it's one shot, and the camera's going up this tower and following him around as he's going, and he's doing all these neat things, including like fending off a grenade as they're coming into the center and fighting him. It's like he's an excellent action actor. So
interesting.
I have thoughts, but we'll fight about it later.
you don't like that shot, or you don't like him?
Second one.
That's fair.
I don't like him in Bond, but that's another
And
podcast.
that is also fair. Very
That's
difficult
another
one.
podcast.
Oh. What is it? So like, yeah, Tomb Raider was starting to get big, and then Resident Evil was probably a mainstay by this point in time.
Well, yeah, I guess you could argue. I feel like this is my perspective here, that this was the first batch of very competent like video game movies where like they were adapted properly. We're like, okay, they're following the game formula close enough to where it can kind of please people, because honestly, expectations at this point in time were so low among most people. Like I remember going to the theater to see Tomb Raider and then like I think later Resident Evil, and just not really expecting much at all, aside from either film, and being like pleasantly surprised. Like the one thing I enjoyed about the first Resident Evil film was it felt like a competent horror film, and a lot of the things it brought forward, like the laser scene where people are getting cut apart,
waffled,
was great. Like that one, like damn, that's a great phobia moment, for like a horror film. Like that's just like what you need to bring to that type of a franchise.
Yeah, the elevator scene when they open up the movie on that, like
I didn't know I was afraid of being waffled to death by lasers, but I am now.
Like, you ever watch Hypercube, Dane?
Yeah,
like when like the guy gets like getting murdered by a cheese cutter is one of those things where I'm like, that's a phobia I'll always have for the rest of my life.
100%.
Not one anyone should have, but one we do.
Very Final Destination-esque, where it's like, there's a log in that truck. Oh,
oh no.
The early 2000s were all about creating Final Destination moments, whether or not the movie was Final Destination.
That's true.
That's true.
That's very true.
Now, I added one to this because I feel it's a very unknown one, and it's because it was an international film, and that's Ryo Gagatoku, which is Like a Dragon.
Shit.
Or, as people know, Yakuza had a live-action film adaptation.
I'm sorry?
You didn't know this?
No?
Dane, oh my god.
I need to see this now.
What year was that?
I think it was the mid-2000s for this one.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it came to America in 2009 under the moniker Yakuza Like a Dragon. They skipped over a big segment in the beginning for build-up, but then they used that extra... See, Dane, I broke Dane with this because, this is my thing, man. This is what I do. I think they had amazing casting. I think they did a good job of integrating things like the sub-stories in a way that it kind of intersected with the main plot. And I think that you would not have found a better Goro Majima, because the actor they got to play Goro Majima was actually named Goro.
I fucking love these games. How have I never heard of this?
Dane, do I beat you at Yakuza now?
In this case, yeah, absolutely. All props.
And they even found an interesting way to work in the concept of the heat gauge, which is that the entire movie, there's a heat wave going on. But then at the end, a character sneezes and says he's getting a cold. And that's after the epic fight, where they even have like the Torrenter and everything. That was the Stamina and Royale is what that one was, which built up his heat gauge, but then he expended it all by winning the fight. So now, no more heat. So everything's cooled off. So it's interesting kind of development with that, which we unfortunately don't see stateside until way later and only as a DVD release, and for a franchise that's very niche in America anyway. But I think it was a very good example of how you can faithfully tell a video game story.
Yeah.
Was Takeshi Kitano in it or no?
I don't believe he was.
Okay.
I know that it was directed by I believe it was Takashi Miike,
Yeah.
who also would go on to do the Ace Attorney live action film, which is weird.
Also, did not realize that was a thing.
I watched that one. It is hilariously weird.
That's correct.
And then he also did the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4 live action film. So
That I have heard of.
And again, he has a good way of kind of trying to meld as much as he can without going too far, which is awesome. I really like him as a director. He makes some really weird stuff that's original on his own, and some of it's way over the top. But I mean, that's part of, he goes with his creative freedom with his product, but he respects the property when he's doing adaptations. And I feel like that man deserves more credit than he gets. So that's my little rant on Ryo Gagatoku.
Yeah, the other video game movie I know of around this time in the early 2000s is Doom.
And this one got a huge push because you had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Mhm.
Also, Carl Urban.
Yeah.
And Carl Urban's in everything, and he's amazing.
Well, a little to unknown Carl Urban at the time, because I think he did this, and he did another film around this time where he was like the white guy fighting Vikings, right?
Think
Yeah.
so.
Believe so, yeah.
So fun films, man.
But yeah.
Talk about something missing the mark, right? I feel like Doom, from what I remember my
It
friends
was
and I talking
almost
about,
there.
we were close, right? Because what we wanted was the first-person view scene that we got one of in that film. But I remember they touted that so much, and we were like, "Is this an accurate?"
Well, so what's
movie?
funny about that scene is that's actually the only scene that was actually produced by people at id. The first person part was the only one made by folks at id. The rest of it was made by, I think, what was it, Warner Brothers or Paramount that produced that? I can't
for
remember.
Doom, that movie, it was what to say.
But yeah, from what I remember that. Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because I remember, they were pushing it hard. I think even John Carmack came out and was talking about how great the movie would be and stuff like that. Because I mean, ultimately, like, this is another example of like Doom 3. I think it just come out around 2002, 2003.
It would be about this time. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that was like so Doom had some renewed relevance after that came out. So you at least have that going for it. But I don't know. The thing that always bothered me about it was like, I'm okay. So for a Doom movie, you have a game franchise that is so heavily tied to like horror elements of fighting demons and things like that. And the movie so poorly ties into anything horror, because I think it's a PG-13, right? So it just it has like one F word, and it's I don't know if I can curse in your podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah, Semper Fi, motherfucker, right at the end when The Rock does that.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, that's embarrassing. But it ties into that. So like it missed so many opportunities to be a great film. Like ultimately, I remember like dissecting this movie after I watched it. I'm like, why didn't they just do a fun thing where they had cameras on the guns more, to where you just focused on that, kind of like the movie Aliens, and did something along those lines, where you could have had a much more innovative and just a more entertaining horror film overall. But they chose to do the weird, lighthearted action film where you're like, oh, is The Rock the good guy? Is Carl Urban the good guy? And they chose to kind of give you that whole back and forth. And you're like, this isn't good.
No.
Well, and they also were leaning really hard into Doom 3 aesthetic in a lot of ways, because that was the
freshest take. Yeah.
Honestly,
sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, honestly, you should want to like follow the kind of both horror and action-esque, like Aliens.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping to get with
and Doom 3 really gave you a fun horror aesthetic and a horror take on a game. Like, so it was great in that regard. And you go into this thing, you're like, but I think the mistake was making it PG-13, right? But like, this is that era of filmmaking where they're like, R-rated films are not profitable. It has to be PG-13, so that way the audience is everyone.
Correct. And that's an unfortunate stigma in cinema, because you end up getting so many watered down films that it hurts it. I mean, a good example, even though it did perform very well, unfortunately, in that respect, the Die Hard films. I mean, Live Free or Die Hard got a PG-13 rating. And granted, I enjoyed the film. I like Justin Long. And there were some fun action elements in it. But it wasn't Die Hard, you know?
Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfather.
No, he does get to say it at the end, except they censor it with a gunshot.
That's right.
So they can get away with their one.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering all the TV edits I saw as a child.
But no, it's honestly, that's how the movie Doom always felt. Like you were almost there, so close. You had
Yeah.
that potential.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like as you said, the whole FPS scene was kind of this great. The only really memorable takeaway from that film was that moment, to where you had that. And it's kind of funny that was a scene made by the game creators themselves, where you actually got something that they wanted to give you.
Yeah,
And then
it's lovely.
I'll tie this back to Wing Commander, because Chris Roberts was making the film he wanted to make but couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, he also turned that whole love of spaceship stuff into a never-ending, Ponzi scheme of money and starships. But yeah, no story.
Hold on, are we talking about Scientology now? What?
No, we're talking about Star Citizen.
Oh, okay, right.
The endless. What would you call that? Just the giant money slide into Chris Roberts' bank account.
The money pit.
Just get a funnel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like these are where the movies come in now. But one of the things that we go into is that movies have been made choices, and now we kind of have to take a good takeaway from a particular director producer, Uwe Honestly,
I hate this guy so much.
All right,
I'm gonna give a little bit of a history on why Uwe Boll
sucks.
Yes. The simplified version of this is basically there is or at least was, they probably corrected it by now.
They fixed it because of him, but yeah,
because of him. There you go. Yeah, exactly. So there was basically a loophole within a German legal contracting system, where basically it was intended to draw filmmakers and creatives within to the country and produce there to generate things for like tourism and all that kind of stuff. So what it was is basically the German government would sort of co-fund your film if you were filming it there. And then if it performed poorly at box office, you would get a kicker back to make up the fact that you would be losing money. The loophole that Boll found was in regard to international releases of these films. More or less, the worse it did, the more he made.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, he was buying up as many video game properties as he could for film adaptation as cheaply as he could, so he could then make a schlock film, slap it out the door as hard as possible, have it bomb, and collect a paycheck from the government.
It's one of the reasons why a lot of his Boll's films tend to have like these weird cases of star power in there. Not because he wanted the star power, but he wanted to spend the money to get the star in there.
And that would draw some attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Because then you can
I want to jump ahead a little bit. Oh, sorry. I don't interrupt you. So yeah, you're talking about star power, and like, even though chronologically this is a later film, but In the Name of the King had some of the largest names ever in cinema, right? You had Burt Reynolds playing a medieval king, which that by itself is one of the most comedic and just beautiful things you'll ever see. Like just him pretending to be some type of royalty figure after, being like the biggest Smokey the Bandit, biggest little poorhouse in Texas.
Yeah.
That character being a king, and somehow having fathered Jason Statham's character, only known as Farmer throughout the entire film.
Literally,
just to know the writing is right on point. And
Matthew Lillard's in that too, by the way.
And Matthew Lillard playing the prince, or no, the cousin of the king.
Yeah,
trying to usurp power, working with oh my god, what was the name of the wizard? What's that actor's name? He was in Goodfellas. Oh god, what's his name?
Oh my god, I know the guy you're talking about.
It's not Joe Pesci, is it?
No, he voiced the main protagonist in Vice City GTA.
Yes, he recently passed away. He was in the
Cocaine Bear. Yeah,
he was also in
that's gonna be
the Adam Sandler Hubie Halloween.
Yeah, so another big established actor playing a fantasy wizard. This is great. Who's normally known as playing a mafia type character.
Yes.
So just In the Name of the King is just this amazing, weird amalgamation of all these actors coming together. I don't know how. Ray Liotta, thank you.
Thank you.
And it's just amazing. And like there are moments where this film could have been fun or better. Yeah. But like they chose to have like they there was a little bit of the Dungeon Siege plot from that game franchise if you played it on PC, to where like, oh, these creatures are rising up that are normally pretty passive because like they're being influenced by spells. So they had that. And so instead of these creatures like marching and fighting like humans to be more terrifying, they just kind of went around like putties from fucking Power Rangers. And that was how they moved throughout the film. And I lost my shit in the theater watching it. And I feel bad having drugged my wife to that back then, because I knew who Uma Bowl was. And I'm like, this movie's going to be shit, but you're coming with me.
If I have to go, so do you.
Yeah, you're coming with me to watch this film. And I
That's
don't regret it because of how bad it was. But it's just fantastically interesting. So I'll give it
I
back
agree.
to you. I apologize.
No,
agree.
that's one that I always thought was fantastic. Like, the thing is, his name started getting around, became synonymous for this to a point that Avi Arad actually had a story running around because he bought the rights to get to do Metroid, so that way Uwe couldn't buy the rights to Metroid. He never intended to make a Metroid movie. He just didn't want Uwe to have it.
He didn't just
Can't
want
have
credit.
this.
Well, yeah, and what's amazing is, so Alone in the Dark was like one of the first major movies he had. Because Christian Slater, some other people were in it,
Yeah,
and
Tara
like,
Reid.
and they had Tara Reid, and it had people. They were doing like the late night talk show circuit, talking about this movie, how amazing it would be, and it's just the biggest pile of crap like you'd ever watch. Like in terms of structure, making no sense, characters surviving explosions. And it was just amazing, like how, like the hype, because nobody knew who this guy was. Like nobody knew him as a director. It was just like, oh, these actors are in this video game movie. It's going to be great.
Spoiler alert: he makes a second one.
I was going to say, you sir have clearly not seen the sequel then.
but
Like,
I
just
don't wanna.
because the sequel's worse doesn't mean that the first one's good, though.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, but you're still not interesting.
Oh,
No,
I love
you're plenty interesting, Dane. I love chatting with you.
So one of the interesting ones is they have House of the Dead. There's also a House of the Dead 2 that's based off of the stuff that happened in House of the Dead. House of the Dead movie, terrible. The sequel to it, surprisingly amazing with half the budget and even more confusing actors.
Wasn't House of the Dead 2 like a sci-fi straight to TV movie?
I think so.
Yeah.
Half of his movies became straight to DVD.
Well, no, so House of the Dead 1 like actually had like direct endorsement from Sega. There were like scenes where like Sega's banners endorsing this rave on the zombie island.
Yep, at the very end, I think.
But like the second movie, again, fever dream thing I'm talking about here, because I haven't looked at these things since 2010. I vaguely recall it being like a straight to like literally a Sci-Fi Channel produced straight to cable thing for the second movie, but I could be very wrong.
You're probably right. So one of the actors in there was in the
We
movie.
lost Dane.
Nope.
Oh.
Yeah. So I need everyone to know that the discussion of Uwe Boll, that he bought the rights to Dane, and
He's
the
released
result.
the D&D on us.
Yeah, the result is that his kit just blue screened.
He's gonna be recast by some other more noble actor.
Yeah, right. It's funny too, though, because like you're absolutely right. That's like there's some big names in some of these movies. It's like, how did he get that? I think it's because these were all in pseudo production around the same time. So he was getting them. He had funding from third-party producers,
Right,
which gave him additional funds. So they didn't get a kicker back, but Boll did by their failure.
Mhm.
And that's where that was kind of... So basically, he made money on other people's misfortune. And that's why any sequels that you get from there on, such as Alone in the Dark 2, the movie that really upset one of my old bosses because he loves the games, Far Cry, Blood Rain 3, In the Name of the King 2.
Is In the Name of the King 2 had Dolph Lundgren in it?
Yeah, but he's become B-movie and then coming out of B-movie again.
Yeah, like
he's fluctuating really weird because he's also in the new Kindergarten Cop, which was, I think, also direct to DVD. So I don't know what he's doing anymore because he still does Expendables.
Collecting a paycheck.
yeah.
Yes, because he is intelligent.
He knows what he's about. That
He knows his self-worth.
yeah.
Also, I have to note that it's amazing that we get 2 Blood Rain games, but we get 3 movies, and the third one's the only one that touches on the plot of the first game.
Did you mention Blubberella?
No, I do not want to talk about Blobberella.
Well, so
another Uwe Boll bullshit.
So that's like a parody adaptation of his own film,
Uh-huh.
which is meta as fuck.
It
In
is.
terms of like where like he knows what he was doing. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows who he's pissing off. And he's like, I'm going to make this movie, which is somehow going to make money because the German government's going to back me up on it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh,
and I also unironically like Postal, which is one of his movies, but I think it's because he kind of jabs at himself in the movie by saying, yeah, people speculate that my movies are funded by Nazi gold, and well, I might just say, it's true.
Yeah.
And then he kills a bunch of kids with squibs, and that was great.
Yeah, but the sad thing about that is that like
What a life.
somehow his lowbrow style somehow like actually meshed and fit well with Postal.
It's the only one that it could.
Yeah, that's the only redeeming Uma Bowl film from that whole. Well, I mean, like, what's funny is then he went on to create like his own independent work, like Rampage,
Yep.
which was another kind of interesting, like over the top action film. Like I don't know what you call it, almost like psychological thriller type film that he made. That actually wasn't bad. Like it was actually a decent, well thought out film, and for an Uma Bowl thing, so you're like, wow, this is actually kind of creative for you.
He made
What
like
happened
3 or
here?
4 of those
But also
movies.
not related to the game Rampage, which
Yeah,
would have a
not
movie
at
in
all.
it.
Yeah,
Which I will say, the third one came out at the same time frame as the Dwayne Johnson live action Rampage movie based on the game, and Uwe Boll basically tried to threaten him over it, and that's stupid because all The Rock has to do is look at your direction and your neck will explode. That man is a tree, and Uwe Boll, you are a puddle to him. But that was just a funny little conflict at the time that I remember hearing about as a quick flash in the pan, and then it was gone.
yeah. Well, yeah, because it was kind of funny because Uma Boll had his own like developed universe outside of the games, to where it was like Rampage. Then it was like this one franchise he had going where it was like a former NYPD cop who was killing Wall Street bankers. It was a whole.
I bet you it was a corrupt Wall Street thing.
It was a whole. It was basically taking advantage of the anger that occurred during the Great Recession that occurred.
Right.
And so it was like a film franchise that played on that. And then like the Rampage character and that character got together in some kind of team up, and you're like, oh, it's like a weird Marvel B-movie team up, kind of weird.
Is it the Uwe Boliverse?
The Umiverse,
Bullverse,
the Bullverse,
The Bolverse.
the Uverse, the universe.
Uwe. Uwe.
the Uveverse.
Now, the reason why I have to bring this up is because there's probably no one director or producer who has slowed down the production of making video game movie adaptations than themselves. Because one of the backlashes to this is the video game movie market becomes, to make shows and movies into this is seen through Uwe Boll's eyes, and they're just now seen as constant failures. So even to the point where some movies that are made like this, which are mediocre or even actually profitable, end up getting dragged down for this. Like Prince of Persia says at times, there's a whole bunch of problems with that, but the reason why Disney made it wasn't because it was a video game title, but also because it did extremely well overseas.
Yeah.
And not to mention that now you still have people that are still wanting to make these type of films and TV shows for that. But as we progress going through time, we're now in the 2010s at this point. Uwe Boll takes up most of 2000s, which is a weird statement for it. But you bump into something interesting, that you'll bump into different directors and producers who still try to do an effort for it. Like Paul W.S. Anderson had a whole bit in back in the original Mortal Kombat for filming the scenes in Outer World, because in order to make the scenes the dark way that he wanted to, he had to use a type of paint to make it all dark and purpley. However, those film cameras that they are using couldn't make it show up right, and it was a large technical feat to make it work. Same with the id Software making Doom with a 3x4 to make it look like first-person shooter, or Silent Hill, which is a very artsy film for the first Silent Hill movie. And so directors are still wanting to put those kind of effort into that. Do they become hits or such? Hard to say on that. Well,
yeah, that definitely piggyback on what you said there, where like Uma Boll really did drag down the entire idea of video game movies to where it was a joke. Even though you had Resident Evil, like their sequels that were doing well enough to merit more and more films. Mm-hmm. It just, there was that stigma associated with them, where like most major studios didn't want to associate it with them unless it was a massive franchise within an established game IP.
Yeah,
right.
And
barely got away from him.
Yeah. Good.
Not today, Uwe Boll.
Didn't recast you.
He tried to make me a German star.
Oh, you kicked him in the nuts real good, right?
Yeah, totally.
Good.
Is that the bottom of the slide? If you slide down too far, it's just
It's true. Uwe Boll was trying to prevent me from talking shit on his films, but you can't stop me. I'm sorry. I'm too loud.
But yeah, there's this big gap between 2010 to 2015 where there's like no real major video game movies that isn't Resident Evil. There's a couple of smaller ones, but they dip in the box office and such. So there's still people who want to do that. Now, when we get towards the middle of this stuff, because also got Hitman, which also didn't do well, but then you get to World of Warcraft when that came out.
Such an interesting one.
Unironically adore that movie.
I think it's fair to say that everybody here is going to say that at least once about a film. Because I've said it, Dane has said it, you have said it. I'm pretty sure Ian has said it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm unapologetically a Wing Commander guy.
Yeah.
There we go. And then what's yours, Leo?
Oh, Super Mario Brothers, the original movie. I literally marathoned it over a weekend.
That's right.
It's a weird story. Just all of a sudden, one on TV. Oh, Super Mario Brothers movie. I got an hour to kill. Watched it. Finished that. Left. Came back. It was playing again on another channel. This happens like 4 times.
You're like, cool. Go watch it again.
So
was awesome.
So to roll this back to the Warcraft film, something I'm not a big fan of Warcraft, but I played the strategy games and briefly dabbled with the MMO, but not really my thing. But I will say, like, the thing that I thought was impressive about the Warcraft film was that the director of it, David Bowie's son, drawing a blank on his name, but like he actually is a huge Warcraft fan. So Duncan Jones, thank you. And the funny thing is, like, there were like interviews before the film came out where like people were trying to challenge him on his knowledge of Warcraft, and he just schooled the shit out of them. and it was great in the sense that he knew the stuff he was going forward with. And the funny thing is, like, he made the film. He was kind of lore accurate to what Warcraft had. He even had like shoulder pad accurate fucking game things in the movie. And he went forward and he honestly, it's a pretty decent film overall. I actually recently rewatched it, and ultimately the CG integration between the live action actors and the way they did the orcs and the overscale was probably ahead of its time in terms of what it accomplished and did.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm a Warcraft girly, because if you look close at the the wall behind me, there's at least 3 Warcraft posters you can spot.
Okay, I see the Lich King.
Yeah, there's Lich King. This is Worgen Cataclysm. This one here is Chromie that my friend did, and I love her because I love Chromie. There's more, but then becomes like the Lord of the Rings wall as you go further up.
Yeah.
That being said, the thing.
A lass of class.
Yes. The thing with the Warcraft movie is it just happened at the wrong time for the franchise. It was not at a time where a story about the start of what becomes World of Warcraft was relevant or needed. Like, I think it came out middle of Legion, if I remember correctly.
I think Legion was like 3 years before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe. I have to look this up real quick. But like, it didn't hit at a time. Like, if you were to release that movie now, where the franchise is very strong and healthy and you have everything that's happening with Dragonflight and people are really back into it, it would do phenomenally. It did great overseas. It did
tons overseas.
Well, I mean, China pulled that thing over the finish line.
Yeah.
Legion came out August
UK,
29th, 2016.
2016.
And
Okay.
Warcraft came out 2016 as well.
Yep, June 10th, 2016 is its release date.
It was the wrong time.
You're right.
So I would argue something a little different. Like, so for the Warcraft film, I feel like it could have done better if it had focused more so on the story of Warcraft 3, where you had King Arthas and that whole fall and a much more and a more, because essentially a lot of people don't know the first game all that well in the introduction of the orcs. And I feel like that wasn't where a lot of people know the Warcraft franchise. So for me, if they had opened it up on Warcraft 3 and done that where Arthas was your main character, because ultimately there's a lot of emotional ups and downs and great choices that are made throughout that campaign that would have translated really well to a film. I think that it could have correlated better, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get why they went with Green Jesus. You know, he's he's still relevant.
Yeah.
But like, I think you're right. Like, the story, the rise and fall of Arthas and everything there, you would get your like medieval fans in there, you get your D&D kids in there.
Yeah.
Like, it hit so many good notes as a story.
I agree.
Now, the thing with Warcraft, as you put it, yeah, it made a surprisingly large amount of money, enough to that after Warcraft, video game movies start coming very, very regularly to that, because it makes something like almost $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it made enough to break even budget wise, unfortunately, because they spent a lot making it. So the sad thing was, it was enough it was enough money to where people were like, oh yeah, video game franchises are like, they're here to stay as an IP that can actually draw people to theaters, but we have to be very cognizant of how much money we're actually spending on making it and marketing it. Is what kind of my takeaway.
According to Wikipedia, so take it with the Wikipedia flag. The budget was 160 million, and box office was 493.1 million.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I imagine the majority of that has to do with out of stateside markets.
Yeah, the vast majority of like the Warcraft film was saved by the Chinese market.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's not the only movie that's made, and we mentioned this before with other films that they, like Prince of Persia, such, that's made with the international audience in mind versus the domestic. It just happens. But then after that, we start getting at least almost 2 to 3 video game based films coming out. Now, we haven't got to this or getting into live action TV shows or such like that. We'll get where we won't. That's what will be a more newer thing. So what happens with that was that we get Assassin's Creed, which doesn't do well, but it also doesn't fail. It made its money back and still did pretty well. They finally finished off Resident Evil.
And Assassin's Creed was notable because it was actually one of the first like films where like the game studio was actually heavily involved in basically producing the game and being tied into it. So it was kind of an interesting change in terms of how they managed that one.
Yeah,
I'll admit the films that came out, so I guess post World of Warcraft, but pre Super Mario Brothers or Last of Us, the show, I know nothing about. I mean, I remember hearing about the Assassin's Creed movie, heard nothing about it. I think there was a Rampage movie that didn't do very well.
Actually, so let me get to that.
Sure, sorry, not to jump around, but I was just like, this is interesting to me. I know nothing about it.
That's okay. So here's where we have is also Tomb Raider came out, which is based on the remake of Tomb Raider. Did decently for it, but what we come back to is Rampage, which is based on the old 80s game Rampage. And what they did, which I thought was genius, is they took only the core concepts that they needed to make an 80s game work. So here's the game Rampage. You pick one of three monsters, destroy a town, move on to the next one, destroy that town, move on. You have to go through at least, because you have to spend 120 days destroying the world, and you just go from town to town to town to town, and they list 120 towns. Like there's like Billings, Montana. You have to go there at some point and destroy, and that's a later level. You gotta make your way to Anchorage, make your way back down. So like at some point they're just like, oh, gonna go destroy New York City. I get that. I'm a giant kaiju. Oh, gonna destroy Miami. Cool. Also Knoxville, Tennessee. I guess Billings, Montana. I think Shreveport, Louisiana, you go to at some point. It is.
How many of those cities would we really miss? Like,
I think you end up going to Walla Walla, Washington at some point. Like, at some point, the game is just giving you city tiles and hoping you're not paying too much attention. But yeah, so they removed most of that elements and turned it into just a big kaiju movie. That movie makes just as much money as Warcraft does.
hell yeah.
Now, the reason why this is important, because now we have a movie, you're starting to bump into a thing that we bump into, like, with movies that are adapted from comics. It takes a while for these adaptations to get to a point where it's formulaic is not the right word, but it's the only word that comes up to it. Basically, a way of sort of understanding enough of the material that you need to keep it going. Because after Rampage, we start getting actual hits of movies of both quality and quantity on there. Because the next big one that comes after that one is Detective Pikachu. And that thing is amazing.
I did see that movie. I was
so
a liar
good.
before.
Also, after Detective Pikachu, the next big movie, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Shit, I saw that one as well.
I will say, as an avid Sega household, I was very happy to have the Sonic movie come out, because I'll be goddamned if Mario is going to do better at my house with my kids. But so the thing I thought was really funny about that one was when they first like released the initial trailer for it, and it was that absolute just
Nice.
Cronenberg looking monster that they had looking like. And I was sitting there, I'm like, man, that's depressing if they're going to release that one in the movie.
You were not alone.
And then we bullied them into changing it.
And thankfully, they bullied them into changing it. Only bankrupted one effects studio, right? But we got the movie we deserved, and we got 1990s Jim Carrey in full force, which I am all for.
All for.
I feel like the Sonic movie did kind of learn, like the Transformers movies walked so that Sonic the Hedgehog could run.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and granted, I have no idea how the Knuckles show is doing or how the third one's going to go, but like the humans are there, and there is a story beat about these human people.
Right.
But it's really not as invested as the Transformers movies were in their human counterparts. And that's good.
Yeah, because I feel like this is going to, with the Sonic films, they actually follow like the traditional sitcom storyline beat where you have your A story, your B story, right?
Mm-hmm.
The humans are involved in A story, and then Sonic and his pals are involved in B story.
Yeah.
So you have that clear delineation between the stories as it progresses through the film. So it actually makes it's a more balanced product, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So it follows that formula, which works well for the Sonic films.
I was just really glad that it wasn't like, let's watch some star run around, Marky Mark in Sonic, run around and shoot guns and make it all about him, right? It was like they kept the focus well, I think, on Sonic, which
it was almost entirely focused on Sonic.
Very good.
Yeah, because the human male lead, I can never remember that actor's name, but like ironically, he did a movie.
Marston.
James Marston. He did a film like 5 years earlier, which had him paired up with a CG buddy as well, which was
There's a rabbit.
Oddly similar in terms of. So it's kind of funny. So they cast him. So he's literally already done it before.
Oh my god! Okay, my wife just told me the name of it. It was Hop.
Yeah, Hop. Yeah.
Oh.
So ironically, you had him doing the same movie 5 years before, and so it worked out pretty well because he already knew what he was doing.
It's not typecasting if it works.
Yeah.
I need somebody who can work with a CGI character. Yeah. I got your man.
I got just the guy.
Can you talk to nothing right next to you? Sure. You're hired.
He played Cyclops in the X-Men movies, and nobody remembers that.
Oh, no. See, I remember that, but I'm a weirdo. Everybody remembers that he was in Westworld, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's great in that.
He's really good in that. I try to forget Cyclops as a character as often as possible, but
To be honest, I think he had like 4 lines in the whole series of movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like these are 2 big movies, and now we're starting to see that video games, I guess for the lack of a better term, are respected to be turned into films and things. Because around Sonic's time is when we start getting all these adaptations going into like Netflix and various other TV shows that are going out there. Now, whether or not they are varying in quality for it, because now we're starting to get into the 2020s and moving on forward. Because you have some that are amazingly well done, like The Last of Us. And that took so many awards, and it's a very well-designed show.
so good.
Also, I love that there's sometimes you have the movies that are not going to take themselves that seriously, and you're into it. Five Nights at Freddy's, I'll be honest, I love that movie. But it never took itself at all that seriously. It tried. Also, another Matthew Lillard. He comes up a lot in these things.
Surprisingly, he has.
I mean, to be fair, there was a period of time where he lost being Shaggy, and I think he just threw himself into his work and into as many adaptations as he could.
Like Zoinks!
I mean, to be fair, Matthew Lillard just plays Matthew Lillard in everything. Like,
I mean, true.
Like starting with the film Hackers, really.
Yeah.
Like it's just he set himself up.
I will say though, like when Casey Kasem is like your Shaggy, like I don't know, that's gospel to me. But
oh, it's very much so. In fact, so much more, he is the current voice actor for Shaggy.
They did replace him on a number of projects, though. And
well, not
was,
Velma, he's not. But
that was but no one thinks about.
No
Velma.
one thinks
the
that.
Scoob as well.
Oh, that was a thing that happened. I forgot
Unfortunately,
about
it's something I
Yeah.
try to forget every day of my life.
I thought we were all just having the same dream.
Although the one thing about that is Frank Welker, who plays who has not stopped playing Fred Jones. He's the original Fred Jones, and he has played Fred Jones until now.
That's legit.
He is legit for this.
That dude needs a hobby.
Yeah, his hobby's being Fred
Yeah,
Jones.
it's Fred Jones. Like,
Okay, his work is his hobby. Boy,
Yeah.
he needs help.
Not if you
He's
love what you
iconic.
do.
God,
That's
I love
true.
that man.
you'll never work a
Mhm.
day in your life.
You know, they say that.
You'll just be Fred Jones. Like,
That's just legally change your name at this point, and then your current name is now your stage name. You're fine.
But back to on topic this, because this episode's gotten a lot longer than I thought. However, the one thing about this is that we're starting to get to quality versus quantity. It's not about how many video game and movies that they can make as a project. It's sort of now people are seeing this as more respective factors, to the point that I think we are recording this a few weeks or so earlier than when it's going to be aired in June. But Fallout has done so well and is praised all over the place. And
It's real good.
and it's very well received. And that one has both the direct handling, or a lot of the handling from Bethesda Studios, along with a talented cast, and brings it all together for that. Plus, they're not afraid of doing long form storytelling, which some games need that, especially based on its adaptation.
Well, if it's an RPG, it's kind of a requirement as far as I'm concerned.
You mean 2 hours isn't enough to fully summarize up a hundreds of hour role playing
An
game?
80-hour depends on the
I don't
game.
know.
You mean 90 minutes can't summarize an entire universe, right?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It looks like there's not stopping at any point in time soon. So, but that's sort of the takeaway. It took a while to get here.
Had any of you guys watched Twisted Metal?
Yes, I love it.
I haven't watched the show, but I also haven't played the game since like 2005, 4.
So good though.
I
Oh,
last played a Twisted Metal, I want to say, in about 2011. But
This is sort of the case that I brought up with Rampage. They took the elements that people wanted from Twisted Metal, but they didn't stick with it, because Twisted Metal in its storyline is not a post-apocalyptic adventure. Twisted Metal in the show is a post-apocalyptic adventure, and interestingly enough, they're the producers wanted to do as much as they can to make Twisted Metal really well done. One of the things they did was to try to get as many practical effects as they can. So those cars that they're driving are actual cars that they've got built, and something is to be said with something that they could have easily done as much CGI as they wanted to and chose not to.
I guess something interesting you could argue about video game franchises now is that the people making these films are the people that grew up with the games, right?
Exactly.
So
Hopefully.
before, when you had a film like Mario 1993, right?
Mhm.
This was made by people who probably hadn't even picked up a controller. So there's a dramatic generational difference between the people making these projects now than the ones that were making them at the progenitor of this whole video game movie era, right?
Right.
So I think there is a really interesting shift in terms of, I think maybe people now, since they have a passion for these franchises and IPs, maybe have a more vested interest in actually portraying them more accurately to the source material. I think it's pretty interesting.
I think
So-
that's super cool.
yeah.
yeah, there's a interesting note on that. Is I've read an article where people have gone on rants about why they fail so frequently, these video game adaptations to film and TV show, and it was pretty much saying that it's because as a film product, you do not have the game element. You do not have the player interactivity. And I think that's bullshit because the whole reason why people are even going to watch these is because they liked the stories they were experiencing in these games. The reason why they are failing as they do is because you have too many people sticking their hands in it, wanting it to, quote, make it their own, instead of actually trying to adapt the property appropriately. When you try to make someone else's thing your own, you're going to piss off the people that came to see it.
Now, on the flip side, that's what I was about to say about Twisted Metal. It has something like 15 executive producers, but most of the executive producers are also the cast. So,
Oh,
That's a win.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably better. Probably a better way to go.
and so this gave them a lot of leeway to work the way that they wanted to.
Employee owned.
Yeah. But no, it's more of how you interpret it is the key. What you want
Yes.
to do or what you want to change into that, you have to realize what you have to take and what you have to what you might want to lose. Honestly, when Super Mario Brothers came out, the animated one should have stuck with animation the whole time. When they did it in the 90s, we got something.
Don't know
With
what,
the
but
word
we got
Super
it.
Mario.
Don't pretend you don't love it.
Oh,
Well,
I
but
love
also like we have two factors also at play here, and one of them is, we kind of live in a nostalgia economy right now,
Mhm.
where you have franchises that have existed for decades at this point that people are like, oh my god, that reminds me of a safer time, a more nostalgic time, my childhood, or I've played this franchise for 30 years, etc., etc. And you couple that also with the fact that there's just more to pull from now. When the first Mario movie was made, you had the information you had in the instructional booklet.
In the book, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't in the game, it was in the book, and that's all you had. When you made the Pac-Man cartoon, you got some dots. You got some
Mhm.
dots and a budget, and everyone's wearing weird thigh highs in that cartoon from what I've seen.
And
And
gloves.
depending on where
And
you
gloves.
look,
So
depending on which rendition you're looking at too, they don't even refer to them as dots, they call them cookies.
Yeah. And so you have this like complete well to pull from for your storytelling, that like you can do a lot with a little, but you can do more when you have access to it. It's like the was it Rings of Power?
Yeah, for
The
Lord of the Rings.
Bezos dream show that even Tolkien estates like, we don't want your money, Bezos. Like, no, like not even you can get access to these things. They did a lot with a little that they could touch. But if they actually had access to the source material, they could have done so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of this guy, Celebrimbor. Anyway,
Exactly.
He does stuff.
Kind of neat. You should
he's
see
well
him
known
sometime.
in these circles, so I don't need to tell you about him because we all already know him.
can I propose a random alternate timeline for you? Where imagine if the 1993 Mario Brothers movie had done well, and as a result of that, the console wars going into full swing, you would have had a push for other live action franchises in that decade. So like a 1990s live action Sonic film would have been hysterical. And I wish I lived in that timeline where that happened.
Just a dude
Okay,
in a
I have a
fursuit.
caveat to that. If it was handled by by a Disney subsidiary a la Roger Rabbit style, I'd be down.
Oh,
I
yes,
That
also
would've
would
been
accept
To like
Yeah.
Jim
Touchstone.
Carrey
Okay.
circa '94
Or like maybe Jim Henson's
Dressed
Creature
up
Studio, kind of
in a
creepy
blue
live action.
costume.
Yeah.
But
I
imagine
would-
how terrifying
That-
that would have been. That would have been great.
Oh,
That is
would've been
exactly
horrible.
why I don't want it, because we live in a timeline where we did get a decent Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
That's true. It is.
And if we're going to have an alternate timeline with a Sonic the Hedgehog movie that happened earlier, I still want it to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
I don't
Jim
I'm
Carrey could
almost
play
both
based
roles.
on
And
based
not
on,
Nightmare Fuel.
So-
based on 90s content. A Nightmare Fuel Sonic film from like 1995 would have been amazing.
But
Yes,
it would
but a
be
Roger
very
Rabbit
90s.
one would also have been amazing.
It would have been amazing too.
I'm just saying, I've got to go fast.
Raise the stakes higher. Live action Kirby.
Mouthful
would've-
mode only.
Yeah.
That's the After Dark segment.
No. You clearly haven't seen the original Kirby commercials for the game.
I
Yep.
have.
Okay, then why are you asking for that? Why do you want more of that?
You know
I,
why?
Really
I said
flipping
I was
things up.
raising the stakes, not that I
So-
personally wanted this.
So would
But
the
we're
Kirby
saying
movie
we
be?
want it.
Would it be it would like be unself-aware that it was like eating people, right? Like it wouldn't mention that. It would just be like, it's funny, and then people are like, wait, those people are gone forever. They're not in the movie anymore. What's
it
happening?
Would be like the
It would be
Kirby
the Blob.
manga.
It would be
Yeah.
like the
It would be the movie
80s
The
Blob
Blob.
remake.
Yeah, this is the Blob remake.
I'd be down if and only if at the end of the movie during the credits you just see all the people he consumed slowly floating away in a vacuous space, because it is confirmed in Kirby lore that his insides just take them to an alternate area, and that's why he is always hungry and never full.
It's not like an Attack on Titan thing where it's just like rings of bodies. That are in
God, I don't
stomachs.
know.
Like Kirby is darker than Elden Ring.
Danny DeVito for Kirby.
Oh,
Dreamcasting.
I love garbage. The garbage man.
Call me the trash man.
I just want more than the single Earthworm gem pilot we got. I want the full season.
Earthworm
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Slaps.
Yeah. So, sorry to derail the.
No, this is
No,
all-
I-
Oh, it's
I
an
think
excellent
That's
question.
the
though.
podcast.
But
I
no,
think-
that is an excellent question. Theoretically, and this would be both a double-edged sword. If Mario Brothers in '93 did well, you would have all these other game studios clamoring to sell off and let people deal with their movie rights to the games instead of holding them off because they don't want it to trashed because of the Mario movie. Now, at the same time, you also have directors and creators who are going to interpret it however they wanted to and go mad with power on that. We would
That's
have
valid.
so you would have a mismatch of terrible things. You remember what was big back then? Vector Man. Vector Man was a big game for Sega. Probably going to be closer to Wally. Why not? Which similar plots, by the way.
Well, then
Yeah.
it would be nothing like it. I'm just
And they would
saying.
also be nothing like each other. That's the mess for that.
Here's a thought.
But
What
actually,
franchise would you all want to see adapted now or in the 90s, I suppose? But
Caveat: if they've already done it, but we want it done better, can I do that?
I'll allow it.
So forgiving, Dane.
I know.
So, because if I was going to do it, I would do Maniac Mansion because there was a show called Maniac Mansion that was made in Canada, on the Family Network. It's a weird cable network that existed once, but it had like nothing to do with the game, and the game itself is fun to me on the basis of it's very much a creepy B horror that's also very self-aware. It's a creepy B horror movie.
So
That sounds like you.
Yeah.
there's another Canadian-made direct to sci-fi TV movie that no one talks about, Leo. It's called G Savior, the live-action Mobile Suit Gundam movie.
Mm-hmm. But that's a different. That's a.
Is that
You're
your choice,
correct.
Tomato Man?
I remember seeing the DVD for that at Suncoast Video.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that the G Savior exists in that film for like I think a total of like 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
It was there. But no, the reason why I would like the bad weird jokes that they had in Maniac Mansion, like you getting locked up into the dungeon, take 2 steps to the right, you are at the secret lab that you've been trying to find because it. And by the way, not just trying to find. This is so badly hidden. It's not even a spoiler. They wrote the words "secret lab" on the side with a giant arrow pointing at the door.
I do remember that. Okay.
Also, metagames knowledge for that one. You can open the door right then and there. It's locked with a security code that's tied to a video game. But if you never turned on the video game, its default setting is at 0. So you can just type in 000 and you're in.
I love that
Fair
kind
enough.
of meta-ness.
But yeah,
How about
that's
you,
my
Chris?
pick. My pick would be Maniac Mansion, but that's done as a weird B horror self-aware movie.
Fair.
Okay.
Who you want to go next?
Tomato Man.
Who, me? No, Spice. I heard Spice first.
I did say
I
Spice.
see how it is. I was trying to. All right, so I technically have 2 answers to this. Just cheating, but bear with me. So, fresh, hot new take, TV series or movie, 90s style. King's Quest.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's get some of the Sierra games. Let's get some of their lore. There's so much you can work with there, and make it cheesy 90s style.
Well, and they're lighthearted and fun, so you could very easily pitch those for like a like ABC network or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then follow up to that, I would still like to bid for a sequel to the 93 Mario movie, but it's John Leguizamo and it's just Luigi's Mansion.
I dig that. I do.
He's looking for Mario's ghost.
Yeah, see? It's actually like really heartwarming.
Kind of. And morbid.
It's sad, but it's
It can do 2 things.
heartwarming.
He can.
It can be both.
All right, who do you want to go next?
Ian.
So the dream franchise I would want to see remade into a film, or made into a film anyway, would be Streets of Rage done in the same fashion as Ong Bak.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh my God, yes.
Dude.
I think
That'd be what I
win
want to
this.
see. That's what I would want to see. Like that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
very very serious fighting franchise. Just basically a guy just ripping through endless people for an hour and a half, and I think that would just be a fantastic film.
I am glad you chose Ong Bak and not The Protector because I've talked about The Protector on this. The Protector's a great movie, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but the extreme sports athlete scene in the warehouse at the end of that movie always takes me out of it a little bit.
Because Protector is technically Ong Bak 2, right?
It is technically.
Yeah,
It's
technically. Right?
technically on Bach 1.
Is it really? Okay.
Oh.
It came
okay.
first.
I just
Because
remember
the cover of Ong Bak actually, or of The Protector says, "On Bach's Tony Jaa is the Protector."
Ah. I just remember
Wow.
somebody hits a button and people on rollerblades and BMX bikes and scooters show up to try to fight Tony Jaa. And like
Yeah,
that's
he pulls a big ominous metal chain,
that's what it is.
and it's and I know this because I'm working on that right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big Sega guy. I'll just take it back to that. And like Streets of Rage is one I'd love to see remade. And ultimately, the latest Streets of Rage, they did the whole retro remake type style to it that came up pretty well successfully. And I know apparently Sega's doing something right now with Golden Axe that's going to be a animated comedy type Golden Axe. But my concern with that one is you already have like the D&D one on Prime. That's kind of a comedy one. So I'm like, I really hope there's not like a market saturation. But I feel like there's some fun potential there. But ultimately, like other Sega IPs, I'd love to see adapted. Probably like a Shenmue movie would just be fun.
Oh, that would be
Just
so
cause.
awesome.
But yeah.
Oh, but Shenmue, so for that adaptation, I would want it to be a sequel. I would want it to actually continue the story that started like 25 fucking years ago, and go somewhere unlike the third game.
Did you ever watch the commercial for the Dreamcast Shenmue back in the day?
Yeah.
So it's the guy. It's like this white kid. He's like, I gotta. He's going through the whole story. Like, I'm my girlfriend. I gotta find the guy who killed my father. All of a sudden, he's in like an examination chair, and he's like, "You guys see where sailors are?" It's great.
It's classic.
If they made a movie like that for Shenmue, I would also be cool with that.
I think I'll buy another one.
Let's bring
Want to play
back
Lucky Strike?
Yes.
weird video game commercial.
Yeah. Although I could do without the Pokemon
90s
bus
too.
driver crushing all of them in a trash compactor
Yeah, that makes
into
me
a
sad.
Game Boy.
That one upsets
That made me feel bad as a
That
child.
gives me a Bobo vibes.
Yeah.
So
Tomato Man.
I'm gonna go with a twofer here myself. Technically, I would for rub it in when you show that giant ass camera.
Sorry.
Dude.
So my fantasy, I want to make some 90s commercials, and this is a prosumer grade Betamax recorder from like newscasting that they use for commercial production.
Yeah.
So gonna have some fun with this at some point.
Betamax is still awesome.
Ian, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I come over?
You need any help with that commercial? Let me know. I got you.
Straight up though.
I want you to make a commercial for the Atari Lynx.
You do that.
He'll do it.
They already have one with Tobey Maguire in it.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
they
but
already
like
have that.
this is better. Like
It'll be better, yeah.
So for mine, what I would do is one, I would want to do a restart. I would take the Resident Evils and do that instead as an anime, with each season being a numbered entry in the series, more or less. So you get season 1 would be Resident Evil 0, and it could be a shorter season because that game is shorter and people like it less. And it has so much less bearing on the plot. Then you got 1 and 2, and then you have 3 and Code Veronica, and each of those get their own season. They can be anywhere from 4 to 12 episodes each, and I think that would be an appropriate time to cover all the lore stuff and do all the stuff you need with that. That's how I would redo that. But then one I would actually want to see done, because it's been supposedly in the works by somebody who gave a shit and there's still no update, is the Metal Gear Solid movie.
ooh.
No, that's right.
Because the director of Kong Skull Island supposedly is attached to it, and Oscar Isaac was attached to be Snake, and now supposedly he's not or something. They're just saying it's moving, but it's slow. It's like, well, pick it up.
It's fair.
I want to see my Metal Gear Rex on screen, damn it.
I also have to. This is going to come as a surprise to anyone who knows me, but I would love to see a Final Fantasy VII live action series done right.
I'm shocked. I don't even know who
done
you are
right. That's
now.
where I
Done
went
right.
wrong.
Done right.
Advent
right.
Children wasn't enough for you?
I mean, Advent Children's fantastic. I would take that too, to be honest. They can give me as many of those as they want to spoon feed me. I'll just be over here like,
fan right here.
yeah. I would love to see FF7 done right, or even like really any Final Fantasy TV series. I don't think you could do it in a movie as well. I mean, the original movie they did was fine, and the animated series, the anime that they did was fine as well.
Which
But
one?
I would like to see something done today.
We didn't talk about the Final Fantasy movie. I just
We didn't
realized.
talk about
We
Final
didn't.
Fantasy Legend of the Crystals, the OVA series that's the sequel to Final Fantasy V either.
Yep.
What? Yeah, that's a lot there.
Yeah,
Or
look,
the
I
Legend
mentioned
of
both of
Man
those
Man
just a minute ago.
movie.
We just talked about it. What up?
I feel like you could make a whole episode.
So that's
just on
probably
the
like
wildness
my
and
number
stuff.
one. My number two, though, I would love to see a Lord of the Rings style Fire Emblem movie.
Which Fire Emblem?
Wait,
Any
yeah.
of them. It could be an
Any of
original
them. Okay.
story. But if I had like my pick, probably the GameCube or the Wii one. Probably you'd start at the GameCube one and work up to the Wii.
The Ike
So
games.
that's Radiant Dawn.
Radiant Dawn.
Or no, is Radiant Dawn the sequel?
They're technically all sequels, right?
Well,
Radiant Dawn, I thought was GameCube, and then I think the Wii was Path of Radiance.
It's Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance and then Radiant Dawn. Yeah. If I had
Yeah.
to pick like, or I mean, Awakening would be really cool too. I think
Yeah.
you could do a cool Awakening movie,
Mhm.
but they could also do like, you know, as Hollywood is wont to do, like an original story where it's like it's a Fire Emblem movie, but Marth's not in this one. It's
No, but Martha
Jim,
doesn't count.
but Martha Neher doesn't count.
Marth, Roy, or Ike. Those are my
Sure.
three.
You could easily do like a good like Hector, Lynn.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that I think that would be the best one suited for TV and like adaptation.
I could see Sacred Stones. I mean, a brother-sister story, taking back their family kingdom could be cool. Awakening is a family story. That's, I mean, a lot of plot lines converging at that point. You've got
Got 'em.
Amarin in the capital. You've got Crom out in the wild. You've got Lyssa's, you know, faith and her whole
You
thing.
need 5 episodes though of just pairing characters together in battles so that you can get
And
their
making them
S-rank.
talk at the camp. So
I
they
want a
Yes.
montage of just people bumping into each other. I think that'd be a
Such
fun
Yeah,
normie
indie
when it
world.
comes to RPGs.
It's okay. We can show the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we accept all
Show
types here.
I will teach the boy.
I will take
No.
the child. We will teach him the way.
Just remember, when Persona started as a high school RPG, ended up becoming the dating sim at some point, and now that's a big thing.
I would
Yeah.
say I would love to see any Persona adapted except for 3 because I don't think we could handle it.
We've already
love
had 3
3.
adapted 4 times over, and it's called the 4 films.
Sure, but I don't know. I'm not ready for it again.
But it's not the 4 films with like I don't know, Vin Diesel or someone really.
Can you imagine him
Out
like
of
as Joker? Like, it's all about family. Persona. My Vin Diesel's not very good, but you know what I
Probably
mean.
do it. Actually, Vin Diesel for live action JoJo. I know JoJo's Bizarre Adventure isn't necessarily a video game, but
It's had video games. It counts for me.
As
Yeah.
weird as
On
that
the
is, I
Dreamcast,
think that would
I think it
work.
On the
works.
Super
Yeah.
Nintendo, they had an RPG.
Dude, I remember seeing screen grabs of Dio hitting people with a steamroller from like an old SNES game, and I had no idea what it was from, but I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was like my AIM picture for a while.
Oh yeah. That being said, though, audience, I would like you to, make sure to, if you're going to like a comment, list a comment of what you would want as go into an adaptation. There's several of them out there. Like for me personally, I would have picked Fallout, but they did that one already, so I have to move on.
Fallout New Vegas.
oh, they made the
That's
one
season
you
2.
wanted.
Fallout New Vegas.
How do you-
Fallout Old Vegas in the 50s. It's just like a slice of life.
Prequel.
And then the very last episode is the bombs dropping.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to episode 1.
And they don't do anything after that. That's all you get. A little taste.
Oh man. Oh, I'm hoping for them to get to Vault 13 because then you bring it around to the first game, and I think that's just would be fun to me. But yeah,
I did enjoy that they did a different vault outside of the
honestly.
the vaults that we know of.
Well, that's kind of
Also-
the beautiful thing about Fallout. Like every game has always been something different. That's
Yeah.
always been
Every
nice.
vault was handled different too.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you have an infinite possibility of stories.
Yeah.
Apparently, there are 2 in the state that we reside in, so
Yeah.
that's fun to know.
That's a
Right.
fun one. Oh, what is it? But yeah, that being said, I think that's a good place for us to wrap this up. Our next episode will be available, if my math is right, June 21st, possibly. My math might be wrong on that one. If so, I'll fix it in editing. I'll fix it in post. Hi, everybody. This is Leo from the editing room. Just let everybody know it's actually going to be July 5th is the next episode. And now back to the show. All right. That being said, I think that's a great place to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for coming on to this show. And this is Gaming Theater Podcast. logging out. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game. Stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is by Adam Parker. You can find him at ParkerGFX on Twitter. If you want to send us some money to help with these episodes, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.